So it's an early lead in the championship for Brandon Dyer and Chris Jennings in the early stages of this Split A season. We welcome you all along once again for another round of SimRacing International tonight for the third instalment of our season 13 GT3 Championship. You join us live here at Spa-Francorchamps, one of the, if not the, most iconic racing circuits in all of motorsports. Certainly a place where drivers and teams love to arrive then. So many of them will be off the back of the Spa 24 Hours, which was hosted over the weekend, and they will be tuned in to this circuit, no doubt about that. But over the course of the next 60 minutes of racing, you might see a little bit of that fatigue set in. It's a pleasure to be with you all again here tonight. Then alongside me, as always, the brilliant Mr. Dara Thacker. And Dara, no reprieve it seems for these drivers. Two challenging opening weeks here in season 13. Another difficult test staring them right in the face tonight.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, but like as you said, I think all of them are going to have far more practice around here in the last week or so than they otherwise would with that 24 that has been happening and all the prep that's gone into that, and of course the race as well. So I think a lot of these guys are going to be very accustomed to this circuit, but I think that will mean that we're going to get some tighter gaps in qualifying and therefore hopefully a tighter 1 hour race.
Absolutely then. So the good news is qualifying is underway. 5 minutes gone so far. Half the field are setting lap times. But this week, Dara, we can run through the standings for the very first time then. So let's take a look at how things line up. Starting first with the elite class, as always then. So as I said just a moment ago, Brandon Dyer has taken the lead at the sharp end of the stick then. 171 points for the altitude free esports driver. He has taken Anders Myhre, who had a great start to the championship but failed to finish this time last week. That sees him 21 points off the championship lead. Harvey Wheeler, pretty consistent for him so far, yet to score a podium, but he's only 3 points away from second place, still in the fight for sure in his Ferrari. Joris Peters-Weem in his BMW, the lead BMW Dutchman, just 12 points outside of the top three. Andrew Pike in his McLaren will round out the top five. Behind him it's Richard Simnor, Nils Wever, Andy Jones and Sven Bebber, who and Ieuan Stichbury, after his race victory, round out the top 10. Lovely rounded 100 points for Ieuan. One race victory, and he's got himself inside the top 10. Kieran Sharp and Corey Price, after a good promising start to the championship, failed to finish this time last week. They nicely round out our top 12.
Then, of course, we move over into the pro standings, where it's a good little lead now I say good little lead, it's only about 20 points for Chris Jennings after his good start to the season, but only the one podium so far. It is quite an open category at the moment. Ollie Pimley finished P3 in the opening round of the season, backed that up with a P8, and that's got him into P2. And Bobby Moskow's getting onto the podium at Bathurst means he's in the top three, but you can see that there is a lot of competition here. Not many guys been able to put, well, actually no guys have been able to put two solid races together. No one's finished inside the top six in both races, so that could suggest that tonight we could see who will be able to gain a bit of a march. Danny Phillips, of course, won the opening round, didn't finish race 2, but those 150 points still carry him to P4. Sam Hockley hasn't finished inside the top 5 yet this season, and yet is P5 in the championship, ahead of Simon Clifton by the solitary point. You've got Lawrence De Dapper and Jamie Bardwell both over the 100-point threshold as well. Jamie won last week in the pro class, so he'll be looking to try and almost replicate that tonight. Adam Smith and Max Wheeler are in 9th and 10th, rounding out the top 10, but Wheeler's only just ahead of Breitenbach on a little bit of countback, and then Marcel Breitenbach too, the father-son duo, in 11th and 12th, but it's very open at the moment, I think it's fair to say.
It is, yeah, it is very open. Still lots of opportunities, still early days in the championship, of course. And let's do a quick rundown of the teams, get a good look over the entirety of both A and B split. Remember, the team's championship, the team's championship over both splits, not independently A or B. So you'll see that we have a two-man team, Mark de Vries and Menno Bloem, leading the way in B split in their STL lovely liveries down there. We don't see those too much up here. They're busy with Mr. Paul Walsh. It's live as well, by the way, on the SimRacing International channel. If you guys would like to jump between the two, Mr. Paul has the other two divisions down there in the B split. The Moonshiners Racing Club, a name beginning to get familiar with the grids here in ESR. Ashley Shucksmith Christopher Petty, James Fraser and Liam Fraser, 2 of the original Moonshiner Racing Club boys there. DX Team Magenta in 3rd, another team very familiar with this championship, of course, Danny Phillips and Ieuan Stichbury up here in Split A. The second of the 2 Moonshiners Racing Clubs is in P4, 23 points away from the top 3, and it's another 2-man team of Lewis Hammond and Micah Rhodes for Darkwing Racing, who sit just inside the top 5. The first of the 2 SimRacing Collective teams are in 6th. The head of Altitude 3M Esports Championship leader Brandon Dyer sits 7th in the standings, in the team standings. P8 is Team UKSR, Harvey Wheeler, Max Wheeler and Steve Hughes, ahead of the Axis Sim Sports Sim Coach team of Treen, Furman and Clifton. And rounding out the top 10 is the TSRC, the second Sim Racing Collective, Bobby Moss, Mav Gardner and Quinton van Vingerden, I believe that will be. And the rest of the teams down there from 11th to 20th, 168 points is scored for the Barbecue Bread Racing team, rounding out nicely our top 20. So Dara, qualifying is back underway. Not much going on apart from that little spin that we found there just at the exit of turn 9. Let's see what's happening toward the front of the order then, shall we? So we have a new a provisional pole sitter in the elite class. However, Chris Jennings doing what he does best down there in the pro division. Someone careers off from La Source into the pit wall. Good start from Milton Tomlinson Dennis. Here he is then, making his way around the back of the circuit. About to start another lap, Dara. Let's see if he can improve. It's a pretty tight margin to second. Opens up nicely to Corey Price in 3rd. But then from there, downwards for the foreseeable. Down to Brandon Dyer in 8th. Championship leader, of course. Still pretty tight in the elite class.
Yep, it is, and clearly Anders Myhre's got a little bit of competition tonight. They have got that gap to Corey Price, but again, it's going to be a long lap. There aren't going to be that many laps in the grand scheme of things over the course of the race, because 4 laps is going to take 9 minutes. So once you do the maths on that, I think we're only going to be looking at about 25 laps, 26 laps maybe in this race. So not a whole load when you consider that we still are going to be racing for the hour. So I think getting towards the front is going to give you a lot more. I'll give you a lot more confidence. Nils Wever going up to P8 there in his Mustang. Good improvement as we get into the meaty part of this session. Of course, 30 minutes, isn't it, Joe? So we're still in the first half, but again, the longer the lap, the less opportunities you're going to have to be able to set qualifying laps. So that puts a little bit more pressure on each and every run that you do.
It does then. So we're riding with Corey Price at the moment as he heads down into the Lecombe chicane. This is his 4th lap and he finds himself inside the top 3 nicely. Work to be done, but he was outside the top 10 in qualifying this time last week, so it's an improved start for the Altitude 3M Esports driver. However, off on the exit there of Malmedy turn 7, sees him get himself back into the pit lane. Then Lewis Kenyon for Team Yorkshire T makes his way toward the backstretch of the circuit out of 14 and 15. He's just got Blanchimont to contend with, flat of course in these GT3 cars. Then he's got to deal with the bus stop chicane 18 and 19. So 1 heavy braking zone left to go for the man who currently finds himself tied with the same time as Corey Price in the pit lane. So 1/1000th of a second would see him pip him in the top 3 with 16, just under 17 minutes left to go. Then as he rounds its way nicely through the bus stop, gets back on the power. The Ferrari power makes its way across the line. Let's see, Dara, if he's got enough in the tank to find just 1/1000th of a second.
Yep, that's all he'll need to put himself up into P3, and he starts in towards the source with a nice little dip. Of course, the track does dip away from you through the middle of the corner. It's difficult to then necessarily absolutely nail the exit, but he looks like he's just about done that. Kieran Sharp, another driver looking to improve. Faster through the opening sector of the 4 that make up this Spa circuit on iRacing, of course. Can he find anything in the final sector to jump him up the order from P5? Not quite. Lost a lot of time towards the end of that lap, and similar story for actually it's not a similar story for Joris Petersveen in P10. He's jumped up just a little bit, improving by less than a tenth of a second, or a couple of tenths of a second, puts himself into the top 10.
Very good stuff. Nils Wever then crosses the line, a Ford on 1st and 3rd, and as if by magic into 5th. Perfectly done there, Nils. Thank you very much for that. He recessed the pit lane. He's satisfied with that one on that run. He'll put a splash of fuel in and maybe change his tyres, and he may well go again. Ieuan Stichbury here, race winner from last week, making his way through the Pouhon corner now. And he exits it very nicely indeed. Let's ride on board with Ieuan, see how he tackles the next set of corners, then into 12 and 13. Remember, 19 corners on this lap, so we approach the end of it. And like I said, Ieuan, we spoke to Ieuan last week, didn't we, Dara? And he was taking part, of course, in the Spa-24. Car on the outside there, in the wall. And I think that might have just thrown Ieuan off slightly. I'm not sure if there's a car on the inside of the corner. I don't think there was. That's caused... Oh, another one off here. What's going on with these drivers at that part of the circuit? I'm not sure. But they're coming off through 13, 14. Maybe gravel's thrown them off or something visual. But it's not often you see 3 cars heading off the circuit in such a short space of time. On that part of the circuit, it's usually Dara, them running wide on the way up through Eau Rouge and over Radion. A lot of drivers on the start of the lap end up, both ways, sometimes left, sometimes right, as they filter their way back in down the Kemmel Straight. But so far, so good. The top 5 remain the same.
Yep, and we'll have to see how long that can last as we go deeper into this qualifying session. There's time, of course, to set some more lap times, 14 minutes, of course. But well, that won't be one for Jared Love. He won't be loving that. There you go.
Nice pirouette,
he'll get
though.
It back around. Yeah, nice pirouette actually on the grass, and he'll do some housekeeping, some gardening out there on the outside of the corner, keep the grass nice and short. Harvey Wheeler looking to improve. It would only take a 1/10 of a second for him to jump up into the top 5, if that, as he dips his way to the first part of the bus stop, of course, rising all the time. And then get the car out, throw it to the line if you can. Shortest line, path of least resistance. Is there anything on there? I don't think so, no. He was a long way off. I think it was a back-off lap, but he'll go again, I'm sure, and look for that top 5.
Chris Jennings then makes his way across the line, the current provisional pole sitter in the Pro Class. A 15.873 for him, sees him 13th overall. As things stand, got himself just over a 10th margin over Danny Phillips. Pretty competitive down there in the Pro Class at the moment. Jennings, of course, taking pole position this time last week, but remember, he had 4 other drivers inside a 1/10 of a second of him come the close of qualifying last week at Bathurst. So at the moment, an improvement for Jennings, not in position because he couldn't get any better than that last week, but in terms of time and in terms of pace over the rest of his field, pretty small margin, albeit less than just over 1/10 of a second is not much time at all, but he has a little bit of reprieve. However, Dara, Danny Phillips is making his way through the last sector of the lap across the line. A purple sector and an improved sector in Sector 3 sees him go inside the 10th, but still not threatening Mr. Jennings at the front of the field.
No, not yet. Still a 10th in hand for Jennings for the time being, but it was an improvement for Danny Phillips. He's trying to work out where else he can gain the time, but it was a purple sector, a green sector, was a yellow sector there as well, so the full plethora for him. He went across the line with Anders Myhre, but that's not going to be an improvement for him. A 17.171. That's quite nice. Palindromic number there, 17171. But anyway, he will continue to be in P2. We'll see if he can find the time to close in on Tomlinson Dennis, but he's just not able to do so just yet. Jennings has got a nice advantage as well, all things considered, but I mean, those mid packs are so tight that one good lap from someone could move them up 3 rows even.
Yeah, it's a really interesting battle. Well, hopefully a battle that continues between Tomlinson Dennis and Anders Myhre. I'm not quite sure where that's come from. Dennis hasn't had the best run of it. I believe he's been qualifying in and around the top 10 so far in the first 2 rounds of this championship. His race results, sadly, Dara, have been even worse. P19 and P20 for the current pole sitter in the elite class. On the flip side, Anders Myhre has been there all the time at the front of qualifying and at the front of the field during the race. Of course, came undone for him last week. You could argue no fault of his own running into turn 2, let's not forget, but the opening round he won the race, has to back off into traffic there, had to get out of the way of a flying car, which he does a bit abruptly, but well in the end. But yeah, Dara, 2 drivers that haven't seen too much of each other throughout this championship season, and I wonder where Tomlinson Dennis has found that pace. Perhaps he's absolutely locked in on a fine tuning after Spa over the weekend, but good to see a new name at the top of the order.
Yeah, it is, and it's nice to see that kind of refresh at the top, more drivers competing for race wins over the course of the season. Exactly what we want to see. Still early days, of course, in the championship, only race 3, so yeah, a long way to go in this championship, and it's good that we have a few names up there sticking it to the big guns. Interesting, of course, to have a look at how the pro drivers are doing compared to the elite drivers. At the moment, Chris Jennings with a 15.8 was that 8.73 as Danny Phillips improves again, but just not quite enough. A 15.873 would be good enough for P13 overall. So Chris Jennings is doing a good job at the moment to put himself right into the mid-pack of those elite drivers. And of course, generally Pro will find themselves a little bit more mixed up than the front of elite, because the front often, as we'll here, dozen cars at the moment would be elite cars, and then it's a mix of pros and elites the further back you go. So the further up Chris Jennings can get, more traffic the others behind him are going to have to deal with.
Yeah, just flashing up the gaps there, taking away the intervals, bringing up the gaps between the leader and everybody in behind him. And look at how tight it is. 1 second, less than a second really, just over 8 tenths down there in the Pro class, separating the top 17. So 17 of those drivers really, really close in behind the pole man. Same can be said for 16 drivers in the elite class. And as you can imagine, Dara, if I bring back up the interval times once again, so much room for these drivers to make big leaps up their field, in their field to start this race, of course. If you look particularly down in that Pro class, you could, a tenth of a second, could jump you a good 5 or 6 places in most instances in that field. And similar can be said in the elite class. This is exactly what we like to see. Maybe a late flurry, 10 minutes to go in qualifying. A late flurry, maybe a little change of track condition might help that a little. And maybe we could see a little reshuffle toward the end of the order. I wonder if that's got anything to do with the practice that these guys will have put in over the course of the weekend, Dara, but great to see nonetheless.
Yep, an improvement from John Breitbach as well, up to P3 in that Pro class. He's in that Ferrari. Lots of Ferraris in elite, but really, at the moment, really just John in that Pro class. Adam Lynch coming around the final couple of corners now. Philip Harris is improving as well. Just keep an eye on his time. I don't think he's set a lap time at all yet. I might be why he's improving so much. I'm not entirely sure where that lap time's going to go. Here's Adam Lynch to the line. Can he jump up the order at all? Doesn't look like he will. Doesn't even look like it was a valid lap, so he'll have to go again from P8. But again, not far off those top-end positions is what he'll be looking for with 8 minutes to go. Of course, this being an evening where we just have one race after qualifying, when the timer hits 0, drivers can finish the lap that they are on. So there's a little bit more leeway there. As Ollie Pimley goes to P5, Joe.
Yeah, right down. I believe he was just outside the top 20 in the Pro class, and he's got himself right up to 5th. I was looking down there, a little bit further down the timing sheet, to see someone, that's Andy Jones, has just progressed himself up into the top 3, I believe. Yes, he's just set his fastest lap time. Don't recall where he was in that, well, just a few seconds ago, but he's demoted Corey Price down into P4, dropped Lewis Kenyon into the 3rd row of the grid, so a nice one for the Ferrari driver there. But I was just looking down, Dara, further down the timing sheet. It's difficult for those guys. They don't get the most running on screen, so I figured we'd go and take a little look at the drivers toward the back of the field. Adam Baker here for LS Racing, about to cross the line in that striking Corvette. I must say, the LS Racing 1 British driver. He's improved, actually, in 2 of those middle sectors. Gets himself into P20 overall. Bobby Moss, the driver in front of him, a man who's had a lot of pace in several championships, particularly SRI championships, over the time, competing definitely toward the front of his field. I think it was in the GT4 category we found Bobby doing quite well. So pretty lonely down there in 23rd at the moment for the McLaren driver. Looks like he's going, Dara. We'll stick on board for a while, see how he gets on. But yeah, I think Bobby would expect a little bit more of himself to get a little bit higher up the grid. 23rd in class, 44th from 47 drivers tonight with us. And he doesn't have too long left to improve.
Yeah, busy grid, isn't it, out here this evening. Ooh, a little bit wide. Let's hope that iRacing don't ping him for that. Improvements coming from the likes of Adam Lynch, P11 in that Pro class, it seems. If he can get to the line in time, he's improving through a couple of sectors, but in the end, not a lap time that we'll see him jump up the order at all. Him and Sam Hockley are both on a 16.287, and Hockley himself looking to try and go a little bit faster, and does. 16.1 sees him into the top 7, and about half a tenth off the top 5. Danny Phillips then. I mean, he's given it about 3 or 4 goes, Joe. Finally, he goes fastest. Yeah,
he's been edging that time away bit by bit. It was, I think, 140 down to 90, down to 5 1,000ths of a second. And now finally, he's found a similar margin to what Jennings had over him about 10 minutes ago. So congrats, Danny. Got his McLaren right at the front there. It's still a very McLaren-heavy field there, Dara. Just that one Ferrari, Jean Breitenbach, who gets himself nicely into 3rd. Not going all that well so far for the Barbecue Bread Racing as a team, down there in 20th overall in the team standings. But for Jean, he has had a pretty good time of it so far. He's, I think, pretty sure he's been scoring good enough points. I think it was 6th a couple of weeks back. And if I'm just going to pull up his record, see how he finished last week. And sadly, it was not a good finish for the South African last week. But he's there or thereabouts, and he'll certainly be challenging the likes of Young, Jennings and Phillips around him at the start.
Yep, he will. And it's good to see John up there. It's quite funny, actually, on a Tuesday night. He is a frequenter of the Clio Cup that Chaz Greycott puts on, and it was at Jerez this week. He'd never driven it before, loaded up into qualifying, took pole. So, I mean, he's on a bit of a hot streak. You never know what you're going to get from John. But, I mean, being that sole Ferrari in that sea of McLarens, I think it's quite funny, actually, because everyone else around him is almost going to be in exactly the same boat and generally have the same advantages and disadvantages. So I think for John, that's a real benefit to him, because if you can see where the likes of Jennings and Young are fastest and slowest, it's going to help him for a lot of the other guys around them as well. And as I say that, Max Wheeler in that Audi, how long has it been since we've seen an Audi GT3 out on the circuit in SRI? He goes up into the top 6.
He does. It's a very, very good effort by Max indeed. Good car as well, actually. I like the sound of it, at least when you're on board. Does sound good. Chris Jennings then making his way toward the bus stop. Does he have an answer as we approach the final 4 minutes here of qualifying? Danny Phillips not improving in the opening 3 sectors. Chris Jennings making his way through turn 19 at the bus stop. He's got to get his foot to the floor. He's not improving either. It's going to be difficult for him to make up all that time in the final sector, and he doesn't improve on his best lap time. In fact, far from it. 6 seconds off the pace there, so he's had an issue somewhere in the lap, potentially just as just a warm-up lap. Just take quite a while to get these tyres up to temperature. Then the Corvette of James Mead exits the final corner as well. 15th in class for him as he crosses the line. Needs less than a tenth of a second to find himself 2 places on the grid, up the grid, and Ieuan Stichbury remains ahead of him so far. Race winner, disappointing I think Ieuan will feel at the moment to be down in 14th. I think he might have hoped to have had a little more pace there, but can I just highlight here again, we've got 400th of a second from Price to Jones, 500th again, then pretty much the same lap time after him, and then 7 1,000ths of a second. The times between 4th and 7th, well, you can barely fit anything in between them.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing to separate them, which is exactly what we want to see. It's a 13.323 for P3, and a 13.369 for P7, so that is what, 0.046. I mean, there's nothing there. The blink of an eye is about 700, so it's half of a blink of an eye, split 5 drivers right now, which is just how close it is. Tomlinson Dennis is coming to the pit lane, which makes me think he's not going to come out again with 2:32 left on the clock. Is there an improvement from Kieran Sharp? Does it look like it? Oh, he's just about a tenth off. I mean, it's only a tenth off his current time, but it's a time that would only be good enough for P7 had his lap time already not counted. So that's just how close it is. Joris Peters-Veen looking to come around the final couple of corners and see if he can jump up the order as well. I'm not entirely sure he'll be able to without a green sector, and indeed will stay down in P13, but they're not far off. Anders Myhre, the next one to try and give it a go, but he won't improve. He's just about to start his final lap of the session.
Yeah, let's watch as Ieuan then enters into the bus stop, goes slightly deep there. I don't think that's, in fact, there, no Dyer. He's setting himself up for one more run there. No challenge here coming from Stichbury on this lap. He'll go again and hope that this will be his final attempt. He won't make it round again before the checkered flag falls, but he will, as you've rightly said, Dyer, be able to finish his lap. Nils Wever doing quite well at the moment, and I spoke too soon, Dyer, because he was up in the second and third sector, but sadly for him, coming out of the final corner, he's spun that car around and he will not finish the lap. Chris Wardock as well in his Ferrari crosses the line with 2 sectors in the middle and goes to the second row of the grid. Great effort by the Ferrari driver, just shy of 3/10 away from pole. He'll be satisfied to get himself up to third on the second row of the grid. Jamote Kieran Sharp and Corey Price slowly slipping down the order. Just crosses the line, did Corey there, not able to improve. Quite a few drivers still left out there on the circuit, about half of the grid in the pits, half of them still making their way around them. Ones to watch, Chris Jennings just making his way through the Lacombe chicane. Bobby Moss and Benjamin Hunter improving as well. Let's see if Benjamin can get himself up in his BMW a little bit closer toward the top 10.
Yep, and only a few more times are going to be able to be set, but of course you can still start a lap time with 30 seconds left on the clock. Bobby Moss, we said that he'd want to be improving. He hasn't done it that time by still P19. Benjamin Hunter jumps up to replace Bobby Moss in P19. Not many drivers setting faster lap times at the moment. I think they're just setting up for their final runs, but not John Breitenbach. He's a long way off the road. That'll be him done for the session.
Yeah, I was thinking it was going to be between Jennings and Breitenbach, and Breitenbach slightly further ahead. Oh, and there you go. Chris Jennings in the barrier. Front end gone from that McLaren. And it looks as though Danny Phillips might have secured this one with both Breitenbach and Young in the pit lane. And Chris Jennings with that damage on the front of his car as well. Lewis Hammond is out there, and he has crossed the line just in time. Mav Gardner goes up as well into 14th. Drops Hammond down to 15th. Not many drivers left out there at all. Craig Wardock, who's just got into the top 3, is going again. He's making his way through the back section of the circuit now. We'll keep our eyes on that, but I think he's just gone off the circuit, so I'm not sure if he's going to be able to find an improved lap time. Lewis Kenyon, James Mead, Ben Woodgate, and a few further guys, Hammond and Bobby Moss, the last on the circuit. 5 or 6 drivers Dyer left to shake this one up. Otherwise, it's advantage to Tomlinson Dennis and Danny Phillips, the Ford and the McLaren.
Yep, they're going to be pretty pleased, I think, after this qualifying session. Still, I mean, there's a couple of drivers that could do it still, in terms of maybe putting a lap time in good enough to pop themselves up. James Mead's one of them. It doesn't look like he will improve. Craig Twardock was improving a bit, but not in the end. What about Lewis Kenyon, P7? He needs 1,000. He needs 6 thousandths to gain 2 positions. Can he find them to the line? Not entirely sure. Let's wait for the time to pop up. And no, not in the end. A 4.67 would have been good enough for P8, but not good enough to jump up from his current spot.
Bobby Moss not improving either. All of our hopes rest on Ben Woodgate, 19th in the elite class then. He's just slightly further back on Bobby at the moment, making his way out of the final sequence of corners here at Spa. So it's going to be 3 drivers to cross the line. Let's see if any of them can put a dent in that. It's going to have to be a pretty monumental final sector for Bobby Moss if he's going to find any time in that McLaren. I think he does find some time there, Dyer. Yes, no, he doesn't. He's a little bit shy of his best effort. And the next driver, and only to cross the line, is the McLaren of Lewis Hammond. Half a tenth needed to get himself up 1 place. And he does get a best final sector in his McLaren. But sadly, it's not enough to set an improved lap time. Then that'll close and conclude qualifying. Then Milton Tomlinson Dennis, after a difficult series of qualifyings, gets it on pole position, 35 1,000ths of a second ahead of championship challenger Anders Myhre. That should be a very good race start as when we get underway. And Danny Phillips ahead of Chris Jennings in the pro class.
Good way to end out qualifying, I think. Nice to see that we have those close grids, and at Spa it can be quite difficult to break the toe with so much of this lap being full throttle. So I think this is going to be an interesting hour, an interesting start. How do drivers go about it? Do they push on early, knowing that if they want to make moves, it's probably best to do it soon, or do they play the longer game, maybe try and make up some time in the pit lane and through the strategy phase? It'll be an interesting one, but the 90-minute race we had to start the season at Watkins Glen gave you a little bit more time and a couple of stops to make things work on strategy. Here, it's going to be a little bit more frantic, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the guys who competed over the weekend should have a pretty good idea of the stint plan that they might be looking forward to tonight. Maybe they can take some learnings from what happened over the weekend, see if they can apply those here tonight. Of course, just the 1 hour, as you rightly said, Dara, so no need for 2 stops, unless that's self-induced in some way. But a circuit I think that they'll all be very familiar with, Dara. I mean, it's a circuit that most series will arrive at. Same can't always be said for Watkins Glen and Bathurst, admittedly very popular, but not always part of the calendar. But Spa, such a classic circuit, one that the drivers know so well, and one that ESR and SRI have raced at so frequently. I'd like to think that will be in store for a pretty good time then. As always, we have the warm-up. Some drivers making their way out onto the circuit. One of them is Mr. Harvey Wheeler in his nice Ferrari there. So what do you think, Dara? They'll be thinking back to the weekend if they've competed, looking ahead to this one, and we've got to make their minds up. Do they, stick to what they did over the weekend, or maybe they try something different if the result didn't quite work out how they'd have liked?
I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because obviously, over the weekend you had I mean, 24 hours to work out a strategy, right? You had a lot of time to kind of see what worked, see what didn't, kind of see how things flowed. But you were looking at near 1 hour stint lengths. You're not thinking about shortening, are you, on fuel or anything? So this is almost a different kettle of fish, and they almost have to get out of that practice mode because they're not in the same kind of race. You can't race this like a singular hour over 24. So yeah, interested to see how they're gonna play this one out here because do they, like I said, do they push on early or because they've been in fuel save mode for so long now in terms of the 24? Do they almost just default back to that? I'll be interested.
Here we are then. We have the championship leader out there on the circuit. Not sure if he would have expected that as such coming into this championship season, but as we saw earlier, he has a nice little 21-point margin. 2 consistent finishes. Started well in the opening round, Dyer. P2 for the Altitude 3M driver. Last week a 10th was enough to get him the points ahead of Anders Myhre, so it'll be a good battle between the Brit and the Norwegian. Hopefully a better battle than what Norway put up a couple of weeks ago, but we can't talk about the World Cup now, can we? So let's get back to the racing instead then. I'm really interested to see what Stichbury has for us as well, Dara, because he did very well to avoid the chaos last week. Was obviously not handed that race victory, I don't mean to say that, but obviously I think we lost 3 or 4 race leaders throughout the duration of that one, so we did slowly creep up, but you've got to be there to take the prize, so it'll be interesting to see how he favours himself tonight, of course, as we've referred to already, taking part over the weekend. We'll have a good grip over that machine, I'm sure, but he's a very familiar name and a very reliable driver, Mr. Stichbury, so let's see if he can improve throughout the race. Qualifying not the best for him. I just saw that Corvette in the background there doing some crazy burnouts as they exit the final corner, really testing the limits in what is the final 2 minutes of this warm-up session. It's really interesting actually, Dara, to see the Altitude car at the front of the field, one of the few that's been around for quite a few seasons now actually, and I'm not sure, you might have a better recollection of this, Dara, over the last couple of seasons, if Dyer has been the one in that car for Altitude 3M, or has he rocked up, taken the seat? So far so good, he leads the championship.
Well, he's not been here every week, but when he has been here, he has really performed. I believe I'm right in saying that. If I'm not, goodness me, I apologise. But it has been a busy couple of seasons, isn't it, in SRI? And yeah, when Brandon Dyer gets towards the front of the field, you know that he's going to be a challenger towards the end of the race. And so I think everyone around him will be aware of that going into this one. He's just getting his iron at the moment, isn't he? Just trying to adjust to that higher fuel load. But yeah, I think they'll be pretty done with Spa at the end of this show, because I don't think they'll want to see it again for a while. No. So it's a bit like Daytona in January. The second you've done, you've done it for about 3 weeks at the start of the year, I think you're pretty glad to see the back of it after a while, aren't you?
Yeah, it's absolutely right. I mean, it's good. It's a good circuit, of course. You don't want to be, there's worse circuits to have to race that, but you're totally right. After these long weekends, it really can be a bit of a drag. And we've given them 3 days off, and now they're straight back. They thought they were done with it, but then here they are again. Good to see a strong turnout. And something that I like to do, Dara, we mentioned this man at the start of every season, or at least we used to. Paul Cowlishaw. We haven't done it this season. He was, in fact, with this new grid, Dara, he could be the only man on the field who was with us for pre-season race 1, season 1, all those years ago. And Mr. Cowlishaw still here today, of course, for the Suma Racing Team, another very well-known team name with some good longevity in this championship, as Harvey Wheeler actually manages to set a lap time in the warm-up, and he's joined by Brandon Dyer. There it is, 2 competitive drivers at the front of the elite class doing very well. But yeah, good to see Mr. Paul still with us, still racing strong, starting in a pretty good place overall in his class tonight, and that brings the end of the warm-up. It's serious, Dara, when drivers are setting legitimate lap times in this warm-up.
Yeah, exactly. Also surprising that they had the time to do that, to be honest.
Yeah.
With such a long lap and only a few minutes, but they got out there and did it. And I think Richard Simnor's asking to stop the count right now. That's what he'll be asking in the chat. He's one warm-up. We almost need a 2021 style rain dance, I think, for him. Maybe he'll, the count back will go to the warm-up session. Who knows? But yeah, we're going to get the cars on the grid. Thankfully, mercifully, not a full formation lap. but it does give us a chance to have a look at the grid.
It does. Very good then. Let's take you through the order of this one. For the third round here, Milton Tomlinson Dennis takes pole position for the very first time this season. Championship challenger Anders Myhre will start on the front row of the grid alongside him, ahead of Craig Twardock and Kieran Sharp, taking up the places in row 2. Andy Jones and Corey Price start 5th and 6th, ahead of Lewis Kenyon and Nils Wever. Daniel Pillman and Harvey Wheeler will be finishing the top 10. It's Richard Simnor and Brandon Dyer, your top 12. Joris Peter Zweem and Ieuan Stichbury ahead of Danny Phillips and James Mead. Craig Corish and Jared Love ahead of Chris Jennings. And John Breitenbach inside the top 20 as we cycle through. Schubert Cardozo ahead of Ross Young on row 11. It's Mark Collicott and Ben Woodgate inside P23 and 24. Max Wheeler, Ollie Pimley and Sam Hockley will start ahead of Simon Clifton. Lawrence Sadapa and Adam Lynch inside the top 30. Greenhalgh, Delicate, Pike, Bardwell and Gardner, the top 35, ahead of Lewis Hammond, Paisley Knight, Ahmed, Jancic and Hunter, the top 40. And we're not quite there yet. Bobby Moss, Philip Harris, Adam Baker, Jesus Saavedra, Marcel Breitenbach, James Foster and Paul Cowlishaw. Sorry for him, Tara. I thought Paul was a little bit higher up the field, but he actually didn't set a qualifying time at all.
He didn't. But hey, last first challenge for Paul. We'll see how far up the order he can get from there. But 47's a fair number, isn't it? Around this kind of circuit. So I think it's going to be busy out there on the opening lap. And we're not going to have long to find out how busy it's going to be in towards La Source at turn 1. And then, of course, down the Kemmel Straight, where after a good 30 seconds of full throttle, the drivers are going to find out how good their brakes really are.
Yeah, it's a good tense moment to be in the cockpit as we ride on board with P4. Kieran Sharp, he's got 3 cars ahead of him. He's going to be on the outside line going into La Source unless he can get the dive across going into the first braking zone. Ideally, you'd want to be on that right-hand side. So if you get a good launch at the start of this one, you can get yourself up the inside and alongside your competitor. To your outside, remember, Dara, the pole man will take the green flag immediately, virtually, and everyone else will follow in after him then. So we're about to get things underway for the third round here. Tomlinson Dennis will get us underway for the first time this season. And as the lights turn green and they cross the line, they run down toward the first corner, and it's a good run by the Ferrari of Craig Twardock on the inside. He's already passed Anders Myhre, but he's not going to be able to get his nose in front as they head into the opening corner. Milton Tomlinson Dennis holds on to that one, and there's been carnage, Dara, at the entry to La Source. Many cars piling up, the rest of the field making their way through, but the leaders head up Eau Rouge for the first time, and Anders Myhre putting pressure, big pressure, on that Ford, leading the field.
Yep, and a good run as well through La Source and up Eau Rouge for Anders Myhre. Can he get the right idea in towards the tricky La Source chicane? Not quite. He's having to sit behind and wait. I think he had to scrub off a bit of that speed as they came through that little kink onto the Kemmel, and in the end it will be Milton who will hold the lead through, and Anders is going to have to keep an eye behind as well. Looks like the front guys have got through generally okay. No surprise to see a couple of cars coming unstuck at La Source. Must have been a couple of drivers getting a little bit too happy on the brakes. But generally speaking, a really quite clean start, particularly at the front of the field.
Yeah, Wardock got a great start off the line. It was the second phase that got him alongside Anders Myhre on the outside, but Anders did very well to hold on around the outside there, putting pressure on the race leader. So the top 3 stay as you are. Corey Price has gained 2 places up into 4th, and it's Kieran Sharp at the expense of him. Biggest gain is looking up and down the grid. Ben Woodgate up 7 places overall, 3 in class. A couple of drivers going off there in the background. That's another one. He's held it. The McLaren has done very well there to keep that in order. Then in the pro class, Danny Phillips is in a bit of a sandwich here. He's got 3 drivers in the elite class right behind him, which is probably good news for him. John Breitenbach here in his barbecue bread racing livery Ferrari, doing well to hold on to that place. And in someone's round, Harvey Wheeler, Dara, is round and off at the exit just before they make their way down to Blanche-Chaumont. Bit of front and rear damage for that Ferrari. We'll go through some replays in a moment, but for the time being, the Ford still leads here. He's going to force the Ferrari to go around the outside if he chooses. Not close enough going into the bus stop. Good defence initially, I think, here by the 119 to hold off what he will know to be a very, very fast Ferrari.
Yep, and he's got to be very careful indeed. 2 fast drivers, in fact, with Twilight just in behind as well. But there's no disconnection, is there? They're all together at the front of the field, nose to tail through La Source. For the second time, look at the amount of gravel after just 1 lap of racing that's been kicked up and back onto the racing line. That's from drivers going wide. Breitenbach's got through on Phillips because Phillips has gone wide. Was there contact there? Very well may have been between Phillips and somebody, not entirely sure who, but now nearly 2 by 2 down in towards Eau Rouge and La Source. That's not going to be fun. And Danny Phillips now loses out to Adam Lynch momentarily. Does he fight it through? He does. Lynch is the one that backs out a bit, and in the end, good defensive move from Danny Phillips to stay in P3. And he might get a bit more as well, my word.
Whoa, now that was tight for Danny Phillips, but what a run. He'll be loving it in that cockpit. I think he's gained 3, maybe even 4 places from the exit of La Source. It was brave around the outside of Eau Rouge for 1, and you could see the 2 ahead are squabbling and scrubbing off too much speed, and that allowed Danny to slingshot himself past around the outside, taking to the grass. Fine margins there from front to rear of those 2 machines.
Yeah, it's good to see those fine margins. That means we've had some good racing. Well, maybe not that fine with James Paisley Knight off the road down at La Source. No, it's Les Combes, of course, at the top of the hill. But yeah, I think this is showing that drivers are willing to get a little bit more aggressive on the start to try and make those moves work for them.
Yeah, Craig Twardock here under pressure from Corey Price in behind. We've got a good battle for the lead here forming between these 4 machines. The battle for 3rd place is actually ever so tighter than the battle for 1st, but nothing giving between these 2 Fords and 2 Ferraris. Great battle that we're going to have on our hands here if this can last. 5 minutes gone nearly already, and we're already on to lap 2 with a lot of action unfolding right at the start. We'll cut back to that once things begin to settle down. Ieuan Stichbury, the man mentioned just before we got underway, has got himself up 4 places from 14th into the top 10. Another Ford featuring heavily in this in the opening to this race here, and he's putting a challenge on Brandon Dyer here. Jara, championship leader, down in 9th, defends the inside line well, and he's going to force him to go around the outside. Let's see how the traction is for that Ford versus the McLaren as they come out of the final corner.
Yep, let's see as they run their way up towards turn 1 again then. Good traction seemingly for everyone. No one's going to get a bit of a march down in towards La Source. Richard Simnor with that fast. Whoa, no, Chris Jennings now spinning around. That's Jan Janšik down there as well. I think his Pokemon gone into the back of him. It's an early estimate. I'm not entirely sure. Max Wheeler, actually, yeah, it's awful. I'm sorry. Max Wheeler is involved in all this as well. Now there's Jan Janšik looking to try and go around the outside if he can find it, but it is a bit messy then. 2 by 2 in towards the opening corner on the lap, and now Janšik's got another car up the inside. Car coming out of the pit lane. That's Jared Love. It's all happening now, isn't it? It's only lap 3.
Yeah, it's very tense, very tight. I was trying to catch the aftermath of that incident down at the bus stop, but sadly I selected on the wrong driver, so we missed a little bit. But again, lots to go back to, and I get a bit worried, Dara, when I see such a heavy bulk of cars making their way down to Eau Rouge, because 9 times out of 10 it doesn't really work. But thankfully, so far in the opening stages of this one, our drivers here have made a pretty good job of it. It's been a very entertaining start indeed. This is a battle in the middle of the elite class going on at the moment, separating some drivers in the pro class. Lots going on at the sharp end of the order as well. That battle for the top 4 still just as close as it was toward the start. Then there was actually an incident, Dara, before the green flag between 2 drivers. But let's just jump back while we have a bit of reprieve and we can see what happened toward the start. This is Philip Harris involved. I think this might just be a little piece of contact potentially as we exit around the final corner. He just drops it on his own, so that wasn't where the bulk of it went down. Ross Young was involved a little bit later on. Here we go then, charging down toward La Source. 3, 4, maybe even no more than 4 wide, and that is 4 wide, and that's not going to go at all for those drivers as they force their way through. Secondary contact on the outside of the corner, and even more, Dara. So I think the bunch up on the inside apex there has blindsided quite a few drivers, forced them wide, and the drivers who were stuck on the outside line haven't really seen it. And before they know it, they're being run off into the gravel trap on the exit of the first corner now.
Yep, and it's always going to happen, isn't it? Just a turn 1 hazard. It's no one's fault per se, but everyone just getting themselves firmly involved with each other down there. And in the end, a few have come off worse than others, but it's just kind of luck of the draw, isn't it, to be honest with you. Danny Phillips, after losing that lead, has set the fastest lap in the pro class and is right in the back of John Breitenbach to try and claim it back. He's no closer Anders Myhre is to Milton Tomlinson Dennis as they run up the hill and get onto the Camel Straight. It's a good run for Anders. He's got the room to maybe go for the move if he wants to, but once again, the slipstream effect, it just barely exists, doesn't it? It's just nothing happening down that Camel Straight. It's good enough straight line speed in that Mustang that it's keeping Milton's head above water right now.
Yeah, Anders is buying his time. You can hear him just coming off the throttle a little bit early before the braking zone. I think if he was to set himself up nicely at the exit of La Source, he could really put a challenge on going into Le Combe. But so far, seems like he's happy with the pace at the moment. Feels confident that he can defend against Wardock and Price in behind. Not overexerting himself, trying to take the race lead too early. Maybe going to try and learn from last week. Just focus on himself and try to leave the drivers around him plenty of room. Not to see a repeat of that one. Chris Jennings had an issue, Dara. He's down and out, no longer anywhere near the front of his field. Let's go back and see. I think this was going into the bus stop. This is what we tried to catch just one lap ago then. Damaged McLaren was outside, and that Ferrari comes absolutely steaming in then. I'm not quite sure who that is. That's the number 245. I'm going to see if I can find him to see what he was seeing, because he wasn't really able to brake in time there, Dara. Let's watch this one more time from the perspective of Jan as we go into the bus stop. Oh, yeah.
I think he's almost too preoccupied with what's going on next to him and in front of him that he's almost just forgotten where the braking zone is, which is unfortunate, and it happens, but I think the stewards will take a look at that one after the end of this race, and there may be something to be said at some stage. Anders Myhre, though, still keeping the pressure up. I'm wondering if he's just happy to sit here. You know, he's got the pressure on Milton. Milton's going to be feeling like he has to make the moves work, and Anders can just save a bit of fuel side by side for the lead of the race in the Pro Class, though. John Brake back on the outside line. Danny Phillips just in behind. These guys are getting feisty.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off on that talking point there, Dara, but I saw them change around, and I thought, let's have a look what happens then as John defends the inside line against that McLaren. Ferrari McLaren, the front of the Pro Class, and Ferrari Ford, the front of the Elite Class. Really, really good to see. They're not on that occasion into La Source for Danny Phillips. Let's see how he takes Eau Rouge and Radion in comparison to that Ferrari ahead. Awfully similar. I think, Dara, he might just have got a little bit more speed carried over there, and he's going to be in the slipstream. Let's see if he's happy to sit behind Jean, who feels the need to defend here, differently to Anders Myhre at the front of the class. Jean does move over to the inside. He's going to try to challenge him, the McLaren, around the outside. Two very experienced drivers, minor contact at best, and that looks like it might be it for the McLaren. But no, the Ferrari sticks his nose inside, gets awfully close to the rear right of that McLaren, but he takes the place in fine style, does Danny Phillips. That's him up into first place in class. Great move through the Le Combe sequence.
Yeah, I mean, you knew that if there was any contact there at the end of Malmedy, that it would have been Danny Phillips spinning across the nose of John, so thankfully they've got away with it and continue to fight another day. Adam Lynch involved in all of it now, of course, after the intense battling has dragged him back into it, but let's have another look at this.
Well, this was earlier on, Dara, actually.
Yeah, this is where the initial move took place. He was on the outside line, John's defending the inside, and just about in front, he got into the start of the corner, but it's very difficult to run on the inside line at the second part of the bus stop because you never really know when you can accelerate and how far to push the other driver wide. So John had the advantage there, but then the slipstream came back the other way, and on the outside line once again, look at how tight John's taking that corner. I mean, he had so much more room to take it. There was a little bit of contact there, and he tried to stick his nose in there, but that was never going to work, and thankfully they've avoided contact there. It's
so easy to wash out when you take so much of that curb on the inside there. Danny's very, very lucky. That was very close indeed, and that would have sent him spinning around. No doubt about that, but you're right, Adam Lynch getting involved in this battle as well. So we have a three-way fight for the lead here, and a four-way fight for the lead at the front of the Pro Class. Brandon Dyer and Ieuan Stichbury getting very close. Sorry, that's Daniel Pillman getting very close to the championship leader, and a bunch up nearly causes four cars to go one and again into the next there as they checked each other up going into the apex. No harm done for most of them. It has separated the group a little bit though. I think that trailing BMW got a little bit of a poorer exit. Could be set up nicely here, Dara, for the German to make a move on the championship leader.
Yep, let's see if Pillman can do it. Dyer looking a little bit vulnerable as they work their way on towards Kemmel Straight, but well, he's just sitting behind. He pulls out last minute. Oh, there we go. And then there's a lift off. Well, there you go. None of that happened as I thought it would. But in the end, Daniel Pillman still got the place. Side by side behind between Joris Petersveen and James Mead. James Mead's cut the corner a little bit in that Corvette. So I think Joris is going to be able to hold on in the BMW. Or maybe not, because James has steamed it around the outside, whereas Joris, he should have the control of that, and he does. So in the end, Joris will stay, indeed, P12.
Great battling in the pro class on the edge of your seat a little bit there as they made their way through Le Combe, the theme so far this race. Good moves getting made around there. A little bit more side-to-side contact, but nothing that caused many problems for our drivers. Let's see what's happening at the front then, Dara. These four still hugging each other just as they were a few laps ago. Nearly 10 minutes have passed since we last rode on board with them, so let's hope that this continues, because that would make for a fine 45 minutes of racing. And Corey Price will be the one who feels like he's in a pretty good place. He's not got anybody behind him to worry about, and he knows that he can just bide his time, sit pretty, try and stay in the slipstream of those two Ferraris ahead. But a good battle unfolding and developing as the race goes on for us here. And Nils Wever might be about to set himself up, Dara, into the bus stop, very wide through Blanchimont for the Mustang. He's got himself up the inside. He's not going to be far enough alongside, though, to challenge the Lamborghini going into the final corner.
Yep, we'll have to try and find somewhere else to make the move. Kieran Sharp trying to keep connected to that front group of cars, but it's kind of fading away a little bit. Having said that, though, all of the top 7 have set a 16.3 that time by, so quite same old in terms of the pace from everyone towards the front of the field. So that'll be important for them to be kept right on top of. Side by side through Blanchimont, though, between Harvey Wheeler and one of the pro drivers. That's not a battle for position in class. Careful, guys. Chopping and changing this way and that. Wheeler should have the advantage and gets out of the corner in front.
Yeah, very good battle there between those guys. I'm going to go back if I can find it. We can ride on board with Harvey as he took Mr. Cowlishaw around the outside. No, it's a little bit earlier on then. I might not be able to bring this one up. Is this the one? Let's have a little look, because it would be great to find him. Yes, it is. Here we go, running through toward Blanchimont. He's got that machine on the inside there. The Ferrari, just see it picking into frame. Loose on the tyres, well held by Harvey Wheeler to keep that one stuck, in a great way to make that move. And then in flew Cowlishaw with a little switcheroo back on the inside. Room afforded. Very, very respectful by the two Ferrari drivers. A little bit of a wobble by Wheeler on the exit, but in the end, Dara, cracking racing once again by drivers a little bit further down the order. And of course, that's two drivers in different classes. Ironically, Dara, both of them are in P19.
Yep, they are. Kind of met in the middle somewhere, haven't they, in the end? But sadly for them, not quite in the middle. Quite a long way down the order. In fact, Corey Price right on the back of Craig Twardock. I mean, all 4 of these guys have just been running nose to tail. I don't think we're really going to be seeing much movement between them. Unless... well, I actually don't think we are until we get to the pit stop phase, to be honest, because I don't see the advantage of fighting right now. Anders knows that. That's why he's sat behind Milton. He's been more than close enough to go for the move, but has elected against it so far. Corey Price, again, close enough to make a send if he wants to, but he's not going to go for it. It's just not worth it at this stage of the race, only a quarter of the way through. And when you're less than a second off the lead and saving fuel, you know, why waste that?
Yeah, I think at this point we have Price and Myhre right where they want to be. I don't think Wardock quite has the pace to challenge Anders Myhre's ahead, and the pair of these guys, P2, P4, just biding their time, staying where they are for the moment. Then let's ride on board with the Norwegian, a little bit further away this time, and the run through Eau Rouge, but very good lines again from the both of them, setting themselves up for a good run. And Anders will carry the speed. He might just get close enough, but again, we've seen him a lot closer than this on the exit of Radion, and he's been in no mind to go for the move, so I don't think we're going to even see a glimpse of that going into Le Combe on this occasion. No, he bides his time, makes up a little bit of time under braking, but he won't mind that at all, Dara, comfortably sticking with the leader, which is the kind of composure that we would expect from someone toward the sharp end of the championship.
No, exactly. And, I mean, when you're at that sharp end of the championship, you're just focusing on making sure you score consistent points, aren't you? I think that's one of the biggest keys of winning a championship like this. So I think that'll be what they're criminally aware of right now at this stage of the race. Because you just don't want to put yourself in a position where you're chasing. When you're in a position of strength, even if you're not exactly where you want to be, when you're in a position of strength, you want to be able to build off of that throughout the rest of the race, and not be able, not end up making the silly mistake of throwing it away. And these guys are all experienced enough to know exactly how to play that, which is exactly why I think we're seeing the race pan out the way it currently is. The guys like Wever, Sharp, Simnor, they might start battling more because they know that where they really need to be is towards this front group. But once you're in the front group, you're kind of locked in and waiting, really, aren't you? So, yeah, they're playing it smartly. They're playing it well. Just a case of how long I think Milton, Thomas and Dennis can go. Because, of course, with being on full throttle for so long on this lap, it's a high fuel guzzler. So saving fuel is going to be that little bit more difficult. Plus, of course, the long lap means it's that much more difficult to save an entire lap of fuel. So, yeah, I really think it's going to come down to how they can work that out, especially when there's 4 drivers within a second.
Last time they crossed the line then, the 4 leaders were only separated by 0.3 of a second in each of their laps, and it's even closer this time, Dyer. Nearly a 3 dead for the leader, but a 2.70 for P4, so they are very, very close, and their best lap times, get this, a 2:16.04, 00, 06, and 04. So we're talking hundreds in terms of their fastest attempts so far in the opening third of this race. The most competitive top 4 that we've seen so far this season, and I'm glad to say that it's continued so far into this race. Of course, question marks over Anders Myhre's pace here. He may just be biding his time, but so far Tomlinson Dennis has done exactly what he's needed to do. The fear for him would be if he was to think, maybe I can save a little bit of fuel, and by letting Anders through, he might just gallop off into the distance and capitalise on that opportunity. So Tomlinson Dennis doing what he can at the moment. I don't think we can really ask too much more of him. Interesting to see how much he's pushing at the moment, or is he being able to manage himself at the moment? Only time will tell. Maybe he can get himself into that pit stop phase, think about going for it a little bit more aggressively. When you lead the race in front of some very, very quick drivers, pressure does tend to stay on your shoulders. Of course, he'll be the first one to have to make a decision as to whether he's going to come in or not, and some drivers may choose to go in afterwards or follow him into the pit lane. But regardless, Dyer, I think we're going to be in for a treat. It's like I said right at the start here, it's not often we've seen 4 drivers at the front of the field split by such little time so far into the race, so deep into the race.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's, I think, kind of what we're seeing at this stage. Adam Lynch has got 200 Brayton back for P2 in that pro class. Was that a poo on that he made the move? Was there a mistake from John? Let's take a quick look at that one. As they're on their way through at Paul Frere. They've got a big gap back to Simon Clifton, though, don't they? So they're not going to be entirely worried about that at all. A little look down in towards Puon. Is John getting out of shape? Yeah, that rear end looks loose, isn't it? Oh my word, it's so loose. And Adam Lynch says thank you very much. And the ETE blue driver, well, he won't have an easy move into Piff Paff than that.
No, good job. Around the outside he went, as the barbecue bread Ferrari was just struggling a little bit to keep that car under control. Another tight move here for Harvey Wheeler. Go away, Meta Horizon off the road. There goes one Ferrari. Oh dear me, he hasn't been able to collect it. Who is that? Oh, he has. Wow, he's styled that one out, hasn't he, Dyer? Why is Meta Horizon? Okay, sorry, Dyer. Technical fault there, guys. Meta decides that he's going to try and probe the stream. Keeps popping up like I want that, but obviously I don't. James Foster is in the pit lane, and brilliant save there. Got distracted, but brilliant save by Philip Harris there, Dyer. Lost it once. Looked like the counter was going to lose it again. Went sideways. And then he ended up in a straight line.
He did, in the end. I mean, it's so tricky, isn't it, to keep a handle on these cars sometimes, and they can be difficult to read. So another look at it.
Another corner. Well, the final corner. I was trying to find the spin, or the half spin. I think it's a little bit further back, so we'll put back to the start. Back to the live pictures, of course. And yeah, Philip Harris doing okay. 16th for him down in the pro class. The top 15 in the field are the top 15 in the elite class as well. And then we have a nice from 1st down to 7th in the pro class, sharing the same part of the circuit, so not too much interruption not too much traffic for either of these guys to have to contend with, at least inside the top 22 of our drivers here tonight, which is always nice, Dyer. When things begin to settle in a little bit, qualifying can be a little bit skewed, but it's always nice when the drivers who are fighting for the big points don't have to worry about people in the other class. They can just focus on their own race and manage their own gaps and see the race through, which is exactly what Danny Phillips and John Breitenbach are doing. 3 seconds of a gap behind from the race leader. And yeah, John Breitenbach looking over his shoulder a little bit at Adam Lynch for the time being.
Yeah, Adam Lynch is definitely putting the pressure on once again as they're on their way through. Let's have a little look back up towards the front of the field. They're still in the same order that we left them in, but Nils Wever is closing a touch.
Yes.
Gap is 1.6, and he is pulling Kieran Sharp and Richard Simnor along. I think part of that is Milton's realised what the others are doing, and he doesn't really want to be losing out that much. He was backing off a bit. It was counteract that a touch, and in doing so, it's allowing everyone else to come that little bit closer to the back of the pack. I mean, the top 10 are split by all of 7 or 8 seconds, aren't they, overall? So, 24 minutes into the race, that's not bad going, really.
Yeah, small lift, you're right, Dara. Not a big one, but a small lift there from Tomlinson Dennis heading into Le Com. So yes, he probably has caught on to what's going on. And the more that he drops the pace, as you rightly say, that will bring the other 3 drivers in behind, P5, 6 and 7, potentially into the fight. Maybe not for the race lead, but it'll certainly spice things up if we have 7 of them just within a few seconds of one another. But the STR driver doing exactly what he set out to do after taking pole position. He's holding on to this race lead in at least, well composed, not letting these drivers in behind him get to him too much. Let's see how he defends when it comes to it later on, and it just makes you wonder how the pit stop times might differ if Anders Myhre is able to save a little bit of fuel, which I'm sure he's doing at the moment in behind. A good few packs setting up. Craig Cornish just on the back of Ben Woodgate as they head through the second sector on lap number 10 as we approach the halfway point in the race. But aside from the leaders, Dara, only pairs or trios of drivers going around the circuit. Some decent margins floating around, as you can see down there in the midfield of both of our classes. Ieuan Stichbury is again under pressure from Daniel Pillman. We've seen Daniel putting a lot of drivers under a bit of pressure. We saw him going into La Source a little bit earlier on into the bus stop. 2 Mustangs go, backs out nicely, but Ieuan can't quite get it tucked in to that first apex. Exit is okay for him though, and this one will continue on as they head down toward La Source once more.
Well, Daniel Pillman not close enough to make a move. You need to be a couple of tenths away. Oh, maybe. Okay. Well, that's why. He wasn't close enough to make a move, and I think Ieuan knew that, and I think Nee knew that as well. And again, we're not stewards up here, but I think if it is referred to the stewards, I think we might have something to say about it afterwards. And Ieuan Stichbury, I'm sure, is not going to be as happy of a Welshman as he was after the football last night. He will drop to 15th. We'll see where he can recover, but completely not his fault.
Wow.
Craig Twardock's been overtaken by Corey Price. That was a bold and brave move, but maybe it's Corey timing that perfectly because he's now up into P3. He saved that fuel and he's now positioned himself slightly better. It could have gone very wrong indeed, though.
Yeah, we'll cut back to that just to make sure that we don't have an immediate response from Twardock in behind. Doesn't look like we're going to. Let's see how the run toward Pouan goes. If you've been fired up like that, you can see how much he's pushing Jara early on the throttle, forcing that Ferrari into the gravel, into the dust on the right-hand side, kicking up a lot for the driver in behind him. He tried there, Dara, to get a run toward Pouan, but I don't think he really got that exit right. Let's watch it again then, as Corey made his way around then. It's Corey on the inside, and the leader of this little pair on the outside. Brakes deeper does the car on the inside, tries to hang it around the outside, shuts the door, and I'm not quite sure if he should have backed out on that one. Let's watch that again, now that we know what is coming up. Of course, you have to have the centre line of your front tyre in the centre line of the rear to command the space. He doesn't quite, well, it's very close, Sarah. I think if we're talking fine margins and safety, the safest thing there for Corey to do would have been to leave the space, but Wardock was aware to it, and he backed out appropriately. Sometimes these guys like to leave a leg in, leave a foot in, just to prove a point, but it ends up ruining both of the races. So smart racing by Craig to keep himself clean in that instance. Has lost out in third, still with the leading pack though. And Anders Myhre, in all that Dyer, has actually taken the lead of the race. Let's see if we can find that one.
Yeah, let's see. He's decided that now's the time to maybe turn it up a little bit, and it was on the exit of Paul Frere. Oh, it's just wide from Milton. And Anders just says, thank you very much indeed, and just will take that position in the end. And I think Milton's not too unhappy with it, because it gives him a chance now to sit in behind and watch Anders for a couple of laps. And so, all of a sudden, first and second is swapped, and third and fourth is swapped in that queue. As we get ever nearer that pit stop window and nearer the halfway point in the race. At the end of this lap, we'll be just seconds off of it. But that top four, despite changing positions, are still incredibly close together, aren't they?
I think what we might be about to see, Dara, is Anders Myhre extending his legs at the front. Let's see how the lap times go as we cross the line. It's a 16 dead for the lead Ferrari, his best lap time so far in this session. And that's a lap time that's included quite a bit of lift and coast, staying in behind the Mustang, who had led for the first 30 minutes here. So let's see, he might start building up a bit of a margin before the pit stop. And we're getting closer and closer to that time with every lap that passes. But a good move, I think, as soon as Milton realised that he got the exit wrong, the safest thing was to let him go. And sadly for Anders, he can't really say no to that opportunity, because otherwise they're going to just let everyone catch up to them. He's got to make a decision. Keeps it pinned, of course, as you would expect, and takes the position very cleanly. So let's see, Dara, at the end of the next lap, we'll get a good idea about the pace that Anders will be about to show. But you can already see visually he's got 3 or 4 car lengths, and we haven't really seen the kind of gap like that so far to the leader. So might be about to stretch his legs and see what he can get out of that Ferrari.
Yep, and he is getting quite a lot out of it already. I mean, he's gapping Milton, isn't he? He's just so strong. I mean, we've shown it in the first couple of races this season in terms of the ultimate pace that he's got. But I mean, it really just is impressive, isn't it? No one seemingly can necessarily match it. We'll see it this time by on the lap times. Can Anders set a purple lap time this time by? I reckon he can. There we go. 15.6. Wow. 5/10 faster than Milton. Just that time by alone, and the gap is 9/10. All of a sudden, Corey Price is starting to think, I've got to get past Milton. Otherwise, I'm losing touch with Anders here. So, all of a sudden, we've got to the halfway point in the race, and I think Anders is putting his cards on the table.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was expecting to see Corey try to make a move on Milton, Tomlinson, Dennis, and it might be about to happen if he's got the run. He was bold going into Le Mans this time on the last lap when he went from 4th into 3rd position. Milton, Tomlinson, Dennis not choosing to take the inside line, and Corey choosing to stay with him at the moment. That would have been his opportunity to stay with Anders, but perhaps he realises, Dara, that he might not quite have the pace to challenge at the front of the field, so he's just sticking to what he knows he has at the moment. The sort of aggression that we saw on the last lap was well, quite the opposite on the way into Le Mans on this occasion. Difficult one now for Tomlinson Dennis. He has to really start picking his moments. He might have to get his elbows out here and try and keep Price in behind.
Yep, and will indeed. But now it's a real change around for Milton. He was kind of cruising and was able to do what he wanted to do, but now it's kind of the onus has been put onto him. Adam Baker getting very close to the back of Bobby Moss. He's had a very good race, by the way. Quietly, we haven't really mentioned his name much, have we? But he didn't qualify exactly where he'd want to, but working his way up nicely to P7 now, and Bobby putting together a nice opening half of the race, opening stint. No one biting really on the pit stops just yet. We are past half distance though, so expect him soon.
Yeah, he's done very well, Bobby. He's up 13 places from the start in class alone. So it's a very, very good effort in the first half of the race to get himself up to P7 for TSRC, SimRacing Community. There's been a bit of an issue down here for Philip Harris, I think. Just gone off the track, get himself going again. Does he have damage, I think, on the front right? Potentially. No, it looks okay. Actually, maybe just a little bump and a scrape. Kieran Sharp having to defend from the Corvette of Richard Simnor as they head into the bus stop. This is the battle for place inside the top 5. Nils Wever, the German, inside his Mustang, followed closely by that Lamborghini and the Corvette. Then look at the gap, Dara, up to the leader. It's over a second, and he's set another purple lap time. as Anders Myhre, so our prediction was correct, stretching that lead. And on that previous lap, it looks like Price and Twardok might have had a little bit of a joust, because Milton Tomlinson Dennis has managed to put a second between himself and that pair trailing in third and fourth as well. So interesting. I wasn't expecting that to happen. I wonder if I can find on the timing tower perhaps the two drivers in behind going side by side, but it doesn't look like it. So maybe it's just been a pretty strong lap. It was Milton's fastest lap of the race. Doesn't beat Myhre's fastest lap, but it certainly is his own. So he's finding his own pace as the car gets light and the fuel runs dry. The drivers might just find a little bit, might be able to eke out a little bit more lap time here before they come in for their stops.
They can't be that long, can it, realistically?
I don't think so.
Before they do come in for their stops. And I reckon when one or two come in, it's going to get quite busy down on pit lane. So, yeah, when it gets frantic, it'll get frantic. And then, of course, we'll have a good idea on where we sit running to the end of the race. 27 minutes to go. We are over halfway. And, you know, time is now ticking down on the drivers rather than ticking up, if you like. Simnor knows that. He's looking to try and get through on Kieran Sharp soon. But he can also see the leading group that has fractured, more than fractured, isn't it, really? Second between first and second, a second between second and third. But Nils Wever still coming back into it as well. So, still a lot on the table here, isn't there?
There is plenty to fight for, and they'll know that as well as we get toward the end of the race. It's always a little bit disheartening when you find yourself in no man's land early on, but it's nothing more than invigorating when you're right on the back of another driver. You can smell a few more championship points, and that's exactly how Richard Simnor will be feeling now. If he gets himself a good exit through Blanchimont, a good run here, he could put a challenge on to the Lamborghini ahead, who feels the pressure, just slightly covers the inside line, forces the Corvette to think about it a little bit more. How's the exit on the way through the bus stop then? The Lamborghini doing well to hold on to that position. Back at the front of the field, all's the same as we cross over onto lap 15 then. These two sort of being left behind a little bit. Price still with Twardok right in there behind him, so he's not job done, but not job done for him in the slightest then, but it looks as though the two guys up ahead are starting to gap out a little bit, not only from each other, but also from these two on screen now. Daniel Pillman, Lewis Kenyon still there. These two haven't been able to separate them for a while. A little wobble by Pillman up All Rouge. That's not what you want to see, but it hasn't hampered his pace, Dyer. It looks like he might be in with a chance here to make a move.
Yeah, he very well might be. Up in towards Lacombe they go. Daniel Pillman on the back of Lewis Kenyon, pulls out, goes down the inside, brakes a little bit later, gets the move done. Simple as you like. Textbook stuff in the end there for the Mustang driver. And, I mean, really, there's really not much more to say about that, Jose. That is as easy as it gets in terms of method of making an overtake, particularly here at Spa. And let's see if Daniel can try and pull this gap a little bit and keep Lewis at arm's length going in towards the start of the next lap when he could be under pressure once more.
Yeah, it's a clinical move on probably one of the, not easiest, but definitely one of the more obvious overtaking opportunities going into the circuit. So yeah, very good by Pillman, very clean, and good respect from Kenyon as well. Let's not forget Kieran Sharp still on the back of this trio, and we have a little bit of battling going on between Benjamin Hunter and Adam Baker. We haven't seen much of Benjamin Hunter for Snack and Sons so far this season, a team that I've not come across before. A nice looking livery as well, which I'm a fan of on that BMW. Getting pretty close as they run their way in toward Pouhon. Not a place that you would expect to see a move made, Dara. Usually a mistake from the car ahead is the only chance that you get to make that one, unless you get a godly exit, of course, out of the previous corner. But high risk, high reward, and we've seen quite a bit of risk on display from some of these drivers, but as said, in slightly more familiar overtaking places.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's generally what we'll probably see. But we'll definitely see drivers go for it wherever they can, particularly the later on we get in the race, when they know that the opportunities are going to be fewer and further between. But still they go on. I mean, they really are pushing it. I mean, they know exactly how to save the fuel around here, don't they? They've practiced enough over the week. But really, the fact that nobody's bitten after 37 minutes of this race surprises me.
It does.
But it means that it's going to be about like a 2/3, 1/3, isn't it, in the end?
Exactly, and it will be a very short pit stop, very little fuel going into the car to complete. Well, at this point, Dara probably going to have 11 or 12 more laps, probably closer to 10 actually. So it's going to be a splash and dash, probably about 40 litres going into the car from my memory over the weekend. So just under half a tank, if I'm thinking correctly, of course. And that will hopefully shake things up, because it means we're going to be running on pretty low fuel for the rest of this race, of course, assuming the drivers are nearly running dry, which always makes it a little bit more exciting. You don't want heavy machines trying to do battle on wearing tyres. Bit of a lighter machine offers much better racing, and more often than not. Max Wheeler has come into the pit lane. He's a little bit further down. In fact, that is his first stop. Big changes happening down there, Dyer. I think we're beginning to see some action toward the back end of the pro class. Drivers coming into the pits and changing positions. The only other battle that we have is the continuation of that Baker-Hunter battle that we saw a little bit earlier on here, but it looks like it could be a good chance here. It looked as though that Ford got a little bit unsteady on the exit there. The Ferrari might have a chance. Let's see how close he gets by the time they reach the bus stop.
Let's see then. Craig Chardock being the one to put the pressure on Corey Price now, after Price made the overtake a few laps ago. Is he able to put the pressure on enough to really make a bit of a send? Not quite, but gets right up close into that braking zone. Again, no takers to the pit lane as they roll round once more. Wever, Sharp, Simnor. Oh no, not all the same. Simnor comes in. So it's the Corvette that's the first to blink, as does Pillman in the Mustang. And I think maybe next time by, Joe, you could see quite a gathering on pit lane.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy entry, of course. We've seen in the opening round, didn't we, Dyer, the drivers, I think it was toward the front of the elite class, managed to pip his opponent on the pit lane exit. It was awfully tight on the entry. Managed to shave off a tiny fraction of time just to get himself ahead before they left the pit lane back at Watkins Glen. And we might see something similar, particularly between these two drivers, Corey Price and Craig Twardock. We've mentioned them a hell of a lot tonight, and we might be about to talk about them a little more. We'll watch as they make their way round into the pit lane, but it's busy. We have the Corvette, James Mead, making his way out. Daniel Pillman was the second driver in. He is the second driver back out onto the circuit. Ieuan Stichbury putting down some rubber as he exits from the pit lane. About 7 or 8 drivers in there at the moment, but the most interesting duo, I think, will be these two, to see if Twardock is able to get his mechanics to give him a good job and get him out there ahead of that Mustang.
Yep, that'll be the goal game. I think it was goal and aim in one there. It'll be both for him, to make sure he's just about got his nose in front. Into the final 20 minutes, though. This is where I think the race is going to change around the most in this pit stop phase. So let's see how and who can maybe jump up the order a little bit further. They'll come out of the end of the second sector at Paul Frere, then run through Blanchimont into the bus stop chicane, and there we'll see who can dive off and go into the pit lane this time by Anders Myhre will be the first one to have to make that decision. I would suggest that this will be the time he comes in. He's not saved all stint long. Of course, the last 6 laps or so, he has been in front of Milton and pushing. So is this the time that he will come down pit lane? The Norwegian into the final corner. I've bigged it up. Thankfully, he does come in. If he didn't, I'd have a lot of egg on my face. But I think everyone's now going to make their way in. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All of them diving in. I think this is where we can see the change around, Joe.
Kenyon stays out, goes one more. There was always bound to be one of them. But let's see then. Price getting himself down. Both of them sharing a pit box quite close to one another, going all the way down toward the back end of the pit lane. Price stops on his marks. The Ferrari just pointing outwards. Both of them ready to get themselves into the fast lane then. So Lewis Kenyon has stayed out. Everybody else is coming in. Richard Simnor is about to cross the line and pass these guys as well. Price gets the launch, big launch, and he holds the place over the Ferrari.
And he does, and it will be Corey who will be the happiest, I think, coming out of that. Definitely. Craig knows he's got to do it on the track now. 18.5 minutes to go. Means that I think we're going to get 9 laps left in this race. We're not going to complete that 9th lap with time left on the clock. So I think that's all we've got. We may even only get 8, depending on when they cross the line. Because, of course, a 2-minute 15 lap. 8 laps of that would be 18 minutes indeed. So actually, no, we'll get that. So we'll complete the 8th lap. We'll get a 9th in. But just a 9 lap stint to the end, and that is really going to feel quite short.
Yeah, I'm glad you can do that one, Dara. I'll believe you, because I've got no better answer. And a better answer here for the McLaren, potentially, as the Ferrari pressures him massively through Blanchimont. He's managed to keep it away, no contact, which could have been very, very big for the pair of them. Around the outside he looks, and that's not going to work, and it hasn't. They've made contact, and, as one of them tries to force his way into the pit lane, I think he's, he's got a black flag there, Dara, so that is Philip Harris resetting to the pit lane.
Well, I mean, I don't really know what Philip Harris wanted to do to go around the outside at the bus stop chicane if he was going to go into the pit lane for a drive-through. It doesn't necessarily seem to make much sense to me, but there we are. Let's have another quick look at it.
Is this the same incident? Might be slightly earlier on. We're looking at Cowlishaw at the moment. It's put us on Cowlishaw.
It's behind, so it's just further up, isn't it?
There we go. Here we go.
As Cowlishaw went through. Yes, he's gone around the outside. I think he's got to cover off the line into the corner.
The contact has probably had him change his mind, to be honest, and thought, go on, then I'll go in. But then obviously when there's a car on your inside...
Well, he already had the black flag. He already had the black flag. I noticed it as he went into the corner. So he already had that. And still went around the outside. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, questionable choices there, but either way. He's, I think, thrown in the towel with 16 minutes 20 to go. Ollie Pimley's at the back of this little train of cars for P8 in Pro. He's been good at making moves through the field. Had a very good race at Bathurst, moving his way through after a disappointing qualifying at a circuit where it can be difficult to make moves. Let's see if he can move up from P11 side by side between Brandon Dyer and James Mead. Mead on the inside into the final corner. I think Ben Woodgate's going to be licking his lips in all this.
He is. Let's see as they make their way down toward Eau Rouge, then just cuts off that inside line. Just the Corvette on the McLaren, on the trailing McLaren. 2 cars on the outside, 1 occupying the inside. Good move around the outside to carry the speed by the altitude-free McLaren there. That's right on board with Ben Woodgate. See what he sees as those 2 drivers ahead of him are nearly side-by-side through Eau Rouge.
Yeah, up the hill they'll go. Woodgate just sitting back, waiting, watching to see if anything's going to happen. Oh, they're all going to get a good run. Craig Corish isn't a long way back either as they run up the hill. Actually, Corish has cut the corner, so he's not involved at all. He's not even in the frame. As they go up in towards Lake Harm, Mead wants to move across, but there's a car there already. Woodgate's going to try and make it 3 wide. This is not going to go well. Oh, big late-breaking move in the end, and then coming across the nose. That was always going to happen. Mead, unfortunate there, but there was nothing that Brandon Dyer could do in that situation. Then Woodgate just kept his nose clean in the end.
Yeah, he has. He was very smart there, Ben, not to go around the outside. It's so easy to just get carried away with yourself and go, you know what, I'll give it a go. But 3 wide on the inside is one thing. 3 wide on the outside, especially the corner like that, is another. And he picked the right decision there. In the end, it was the car in the middle who couldn't make his way through the corner. We'll go back and check that one in just a moment. I wanted to mention, sadly, Lawrence de Dapper, who was having quite a good race. In fact, Dara, that might have been Laurent who got caught up with Phillips on the entrance to the pit lane, but sadly for him, he has had another issue as well. There's the front end loss from that damage earlier on, and I think, he's just had enough and pulled over. He can feel that he doesn't have the downforce, and he knows that the lap times will suffer as a result of that. And Craig, right now on the back of Corey, just coming on to the completion of the first lap, having coming out of the pit lane, and already the Ferrari all over the back of the Mustang. Nothing giving between first and second as we might have expected. But the battle for the podium, Dara, well and truly on, well inside the final quarter of this race now.
Yeah, 14 minutes to go. Myhre's just crossed the line. Yeah, we're going to get 7 more laps. So, yeah, the maths was right originally. 7 more laps to go here at Spa. Craig Twardock looks the keenest to make his way through, as does Ben Woodgate, but they're out to the top 10. So, in the top 10 in elite class, it just seems like it's Price versus Twardock to keep a real eye on at the moment. In Pro, you've got Brayton back against Lynch, and then Baker in front of that train of cars. So a little bit more of an offering in Pro that we'll keep tabs on. I don't think Twardock's going to be close enough to make a move here on Corey Price down in towards Lake Harm, but at least you can see the semblance of a slipstream effect down into the corner, which is positive to see. It means that if he is close enough, he'll be confident in making a move towards the end of the straight.
I think he might be then. Let's just go back and see what happened into Lake Harm on that last lap. The 3 wide situation, you can see late on the brakes by the middle car, turns in potentially a little bit early. Let's just watch that again straight from the chopper. Not sure what he thought there. The car on the inside hasn't even got the steering on by the time that James expects him to take the corner. Thankfully, minimal damage. Manages to get himself going again quite quickly. Disappointing, but as you said, Dyer, when you see it go 3 wide, you can get carried away pretty easily.
Yeah, you can, and you've got to be careful not to. Particularly in a track like this, because it can easily come unstuck, and you've got to keep yourself in the rhythm, particularly through that middle sector. And if you just start to overdrive the car or try to bite off a little bit more than you really can chew, it's going to bite you, ironically, in the back end by the time we get towards the final stages in the race. Schubert Cardozo had a little bit of a look there on one of our pro drivers. Who is that just in front?
That is Bobby Moss.
Awful with deliveries, thank you. Who, again, had a really good race through the field. Looks like 7th, maybe the maximum. And he won't want to get stuck in a battle with Schubert Cardozo, who is not in the same class and kind of just not in the same race at all at the moment. Side by side between Collicott and Jennings in towards... was that on the exit of... It was on the exit of Mount Lake Army, yeah, thank you. And in towards Bruxelles. Well, nothing doing there.
No, it was a good battle. Chris Jennings, of course, right at the front of the order toward the start of this race. Came undone for him in the end, sadly, but he's still having some good fun back there as all of them head off into the dirt on the exit of that left-hander. Ross Young got a good run, but not enough to think about a move on the Audi in front of him. Here's some action toward the front, Dyer. It's Nils Wever, who's got Kieran Sharp in that Lamborghini. We've seen a little bit of these, and it looks as though Sharp has got a pretty good run on him here. He might be in with a chance. Not as close as it looked there from the off-board pictures, but he's certainly going to be in the slipstream. It would be bold if he was to lunge it up the inside. Let's see if the Mustang ahead reacts, stays on the racing line, was confident that the car behind him wasn't going to do anything silly, and his confidence was paid off there because he didn't, and he stayed exactly where he was. Last thing you want to do is do anything bold or anything rash at this late stage. Of course, 50 minutes down, only 10 left to go. Not too much giving up and down the field now. Only a few drivers close to one another. This is quite a tight little pack here, Dara. Down from P23 overall. It's mostly the top 10 in the pro class, with a few of the elite drivers sprinkled in there as well. But it's the biggest pack that we have on offer at the moment. And Bobby Moss is once again under pressure, takes the defensive line, moves over to the outside. I think he's going to accept that Schubert is going to go up the inside in his BMW. No, he's not. He's going to fight it around the outside. And around the outside he does. He's going to be stuck on the outside again here. Inter-class battle. No points on offer for taking these places. But Bobby Moss says, no thank you, mate. You can stay right there. And I'm going to stay in front of you on track.
Yep. And I think that's going to work out nicely for Bobby to have that track position as we get in towards the final 10 minutes of this race. Kind of where you want to position yourself, isn't it, realistically? Let's see it again, though. The move that Cardozo attempted in towards Lake Calm, I mean, that's a very tight line into the corner, into the middle of the track, but just doesn't brake late enough on that line, was too nervous about it. Bobby comes around the outside, a little bit of contact, but he controls the line. He is able to get the nice run through, and then into the third part, he has to run around the outside, which is always the more advantageous route, and then holds track position. So, good little tussle for them, but even if there's what positions, wouldn't even change the amount of points they win tonight. Price still ahead of Twardock. I think Price's dream of catching up to Milton is fading. But there's 5 laps to go now. Craig's got to get a move on soon if he wants to get that podium.
Yeah, Craig did get incredibly close to the back of Price while we were cut to replay there. So going into the bus stop, I think he would have maybe had a little bit of a front wheel arch alongside the back of that Mustang, but not able to get past on that occasion. This is the main battle that we have on our hands. Ooh, filling the mirrors, making him think about it. That would have been interesting there to see if Corey Price reacted. It's very easy to snag a break when you see a driver going in late, so late into the corner and making that little jink to the inside. That's what Craig will be trying to do, put him off now. He might realise that he doesn't have the pace, but if he can fill his mirrors and make him overthink his defence, maybe Corey will slip himself into a mistake of his own, and as a result, that Ferrari could just waltz on by. Let's see how that one unfolds. Mind games, it seems, between the two drivers fighting over that last place on the podium.
Yep, and it's an important battle, particularly for their own championship ambitions, and of course for the the personal accolade of getting that podium under their belt, particularly a track like Spa, which, generally would be the highlight of a calendar, but we've got so many big hitters on this calendar. I think, you're going to be happy to get a podium anywhere along these 10 weeks. So I think interesting to see how they're going to end up fighting this one to the end. There wasn't a move in the end, and towards Vacom this time. So let's go back to Twadok, because this is as close as he's been. He's not going to make a move in towards Blanchemont, surely. Goodness me.
Yeah, aggressive defence by Price, albeit he didn't have anything alongside, so I think that's pretty legal, but it would have been pretty sketchy in the cockpit. They fanned out slightly on the way through Blanchemont. Defensive position takes the Mustang, and he's going to have to go around the outside. Is he going to be afforded the room? No, Price comes back across. Again, legal defence, pretty aggressive, but nothing wrong doing there by Corey on this occasion. And that's given him a little bit of a margin there, half a second as they cross the line then. So that's just put off the Ferrari from making that challenge, and behind similar can be said here. 3rd and 4th, 5th and 6th, the key battles that we have on the track. We saw the Lamborghini getting a good run up Eau Rouge. It seems on this occasion Dyer is a little bit closer, making the run downhill from La Source, which potentially means by the time we reach Le Combe, we could have a good side-by-side battle on. Let's see then, as they crest over Radion, make their way down onto the Kemmel Straight on lap number 23 here. We're so far into this race, just 6.5 minutes left to go. Is the Lamborghini going to make a little jink to the inside? No, stays where he is. And they file through, as we've seen them do on many occasions. Price, Twadok, Wever and Sharp providing the entertainment at this time in the final few minutes.
Yep, and it is ticking down now, isn't it? As they come over the start-finish line in the pro class. Sam Hockley fighting with Benjamin Hunter as they run their way through turn 1, and Hunter's got the inside line and the position, P9 that is, in that pro class. Hockley's going to have to try and come back at him as they rise over Eau Rouge and Radion. Not going to make it on the inside there. He's going to have to slot back into the slipstream as they rise the hill. Ooh, didn't look the easiest of runs for Benjamin Hunter, and here comes Hockley again, and he looks like he's going to have a great run in towards Lake Combe. Yeah,
it could be a chance. Stuck on the outside line though. Let's ride on board with them as they head towards the Le Combe sequence then. Let's get on the chopper cam and see. Oh, he thought about turning in there. He did well, and that's contact, and he's around. The Snacks and Sons BMW is around. He's I think a bit of netcode there might have sent him around. It looked as though it was getting pretty close. Sadly, that's not what you like to see. Sam Hockley has gained that place at the expense. And look at this, Dara, again. Corey Price forcing that Ferrari to the inside, but he's got more than enough of a car on the outside, on the inside, going through Blanchemont. Brave move, forces the Mustang off the circuit, who rejoins on the racing line. This is going to get dicey. We've only got 2 or 3 laps to go, and Price was defending super aggressively there again.
Yep, and at the moment, Price is going to have to deal with that slowdown penalty at some point. Does he do it down this straight? Does he do it into the corner? It's a horrible place to have to try and deal with it. He's going to do it into the corner. It's going to allow Craig Twadok to go through. Or has he even served it? He's not even... Oh, he has served it. There we go. But it's given him the run and the slipstream back up the hill. That was the best thing he could have done in that situation. But it's now Twadok who has P3, and with only 3 laps remaining, he's going to have to get the move done back on him pretty quickly indeed. So much time is lost at this circuit by putting your foot on the floor and not really being able to do much in terms of gaining or losing time. But if you can put your foot on the floor and use the slipstream and use the outside line towards they come to make a move, then you're going to be feeling a lot happier. And that's exactly what Corey's done. He's straight past Craig. Can Craig put it back on him on the brakes? Yes, he can. Much, much later from Twadok, and it's a fantastic defensive manoeuvre. He stays in P3.
Yeah, great battle on our hands here. It's what we were hoping was going to happen, and we're seeing it unfolding here toward the end of the session. Not long left for these guys to square up their places. Price has been in front of him for the entirety of this race so far, but right at the end, he's had to give it up. Very aggressive. I'm going to see if we can go back and find that run through Blanchemont, because it was, again, aggressive, but I think legal defence by Price on that instance. But in the end, Twadok managed to get himself by. Let's see what Price has under that bonnet of the Mustang. See if he can get back on the back of the... see if he can get up to the back of the Ferrari, who runs wide. And it's going to give the Mustang a chance, but the Ferrari's on the inside line. He's going to hold the position. These two, Dara, I think, are going to be seeing an awful lot of each other for the next couple of laps.
Yeah, I think they will. Let's hope it doesn't end in tears. Let's hope that they can get through. Kieran Sharp's going to hope that they keep battling, because he's under pressure from Nils Wever. But if these two keep going at it, then he'll be dragged into the battle for P3 as well. And you'd have to say that you'd expect them to keep going at it with only 2 laps remaining when they do cross that start-finish line once more. Anders Myhre's not a long way away from it, but he's going to reach it about 20 seconds too soon for us to get not even that, maybe even 10 seconds too soon for it to become the penultimate lap of the race. Or sorry, the final. Corey Price is going to watch a very defensive line from Craig Twardock. I mean, insanely defensive. I don't think Corey was ever going to be able to go for the move there, and if anything, Craig just lost himself a couple of tenths, which could be crucial.
Yeah, it kind of shows how Craig might be feeling about this one, given what he's had to look at, the reactions of that Mustang. He obviously considered the fact that the Mustang could have forced it up the inside, feeling the need to defend that much, of course, but Corey actually lifted off quite early into the braking zone, so he was putting him under no pressure at all. So two different mindsets going into the final chicane. Only a couple of more exercises through there, and then the race will be concluded. Might be different here because he's got a good run once again over Ieuan down the Camel Straight, defensive again, not leaving any room on the inside, Dara. And as we head through La Com, it might be about to happen again. Or is Price? Yeah, Price is just going to come off the throttle. I think, if anything, Dara, he's going to leave it right until the end, and he might try and force the issue running down through Blanchimont into the bus stop again, or potentially just defend through the final few sectors, because he seems to have the better of him pace-wise, especially in the slipstream, but backing off, not wanting to make his move too early.
No, he doesn't want to do that at all. He doesn't want to show his hand either, especially if he's got something lined up. The issue with waiting is the risk of, there never really is a chance, is there, to get yourself close enough to make the move. That was the kind of half spin that we saw out of the final corner. Not what you need at the end of the race, but you're going on to the white flag lap. I mean, Sharp and Wever are there now, within a second, and so any issue from Craig or Corey could allow them to get onto the podium kind of out of nowhere. Yeah,
it could be a very close finish then. Anders Myhre makes his way down towards Blanchimont, back on fine form, I think, for Mr. Myhre. He was right up there in qualifying, of course, converted the race victory in the first race, and was very unlucky, no fault of his own, for that DNF last time out, but so far, so good for him. Not long left at this point for Ferrari driver for RAA Sim Sport, as he will take the white flag. One more lap to go, and he's got a nice margin of over 3.5 seconds. But rightly said, Dara, this battle for third place has just heated up a little bit, because we've invited the Lamborghini and another Mustang down there with Nils Wever to challenge for it. Now the gap to Twardock quite, well, not that large, but larger than we've seen. Let's see what the exit's like for the Mustang in behind, because it looked as though Price has just been holding that place, maybe biding his time, but he might have bided it a little bit too long, because Kieran hasn't been part of this battle. He might not be as aware as we are how these guys have been racing over the last 60 minutes, and this Lamborghini might think, hell, I've arrived, maybe I should just send it into Le Com.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be one of the main considerations now for him, because what else can he do? Kieran Sharp is all of a sudden into the battle, though. Is he going to send it late? He jumps out of the slipstream. Goodness me, that's a late send. He's looking for P4. He's going to get P4 in that Lamborghini, and all of a sudden, Corey Price has gone from in the battle for the podium to maybe having to settle for P5 in the end. Sharp's through. He's a bit wider. That's not going to give him the best exit, and Corey Price is going to come back at him, but he's not close enough to make anything working towards Bruxelles. And I mean, Kieran's not close enough at all to have a go at Craig Twardock. That gap's now a second, so Craig should be safe in P3, but Kieran's going to be delighted at nabbing P4 in the final lap.
Yeah, let's see if the pressure there has put Corey's mindset off a little bit. Nils is in with a chance here. If he can get close, coming through the exit of the final few corners, he might be able to line one up into the bus stop. It'll be interesting to be in that seat with Corey at the moment. Is he thinking more about what's in front of him, or more about what is behind him? It was a great move by the Lamborghini to get himself up into the top 4. Twardock seems pretty comfortable at the moment. No mistakes from him. We'll see him stay on the podium. But what a great end we've had between all of these drivers. Anders Myhre and Milton Tomlinson-Dennis did a brilliant job at the start of the race. Cracking effort in qualifying, and the best result by far for Tomlinson-Dennis so far in this championship. But I think it was safe to say he wouldn't have been able to hold out Anders Myhre, who's been, well, a little bit in a class of his own so far this season. I think we're going to see more of that as the season sort of moves its way toward the halfway stage. But the third round on this occasion is won out by Anders Myhre. That will help him a lot in his recovery at the front of the order. And there's a bit of drama here, I think. Corey Price might have just got himself temporarily past Nils Wever there. And as they cross the line, Corey Price has run out of fuel, it seems, Dara. He has. Wow.
Well, that'll make a little bit more sense then.
Yeah.
Why he was dropping away, and he's now down in 8th. Lucky to get in 8th in the end. But he lost a good, 8 seconds on that final lap?
Danny Phillips then coming out the final corner. He wins it with a massive margin. 8.5 seconds down to Jean Breitenbach. Chris Jennings, of course, not in the picture after that earlier incident. So congratulations to Mr. Phillips. Barbecue Bread Racing takes second. That should do their standings in the teams all the world of good. And Adam Lynch only 0.3 of a second down on P2 in the end. And it's a couple of donuts for the race winner in the end. But Corey Price, wow, shock at the end. Kieran Sharp getting himself up the order. And these two are having a few shenanigans at the end of the race. I think they've just had a little pile driver into the barrier there. Hope the marshals are okay. But yeah, what a great way to finish between Sharp and Wever to come up and make that pass. And then obviously Price not able to cross the line with the fuel in his tank. And that promotes them up one more place, respectively. I'm sure they're very, very satisfied with how that race ended.
Yeah, I mean, he nabbed it at the end, didn't he? Both of them nabbed at a good position at the end to just about give themselves an even better evening than they're already having. But a top 5 in a race at the Spa after an hour is really quite impressive, particularly with the quality of field that we had all the way through. Just a couple of cars coming across the line, of course. I mean, we only started the final lap with about 20 seconds left on the clock. So I think there's another... For some of the drivers, it's really an hour and 5-minute race, just about. But I think we just about got everybody across the line, and that was a good one in the end, wasn't it, Joe?
It was, mate. It was a good race indeed. That's very good to see as well. Last week, very entertaining. This week matches it, which is good for us and good for the viewer and good for the drivers, of course, as well. What else is good for the drivers is the points that they have just scored. So to take you through the race results, as always, starting first with the elite class. So Anders Myhre back on the top step. Round 1 victory. Round 3 victory for the RAA. I don't know if I should call it the RAA or the RAA. It's pretty easy to say RAA. I'm not going to say RA though. So we'll stick to RAA Sim Sports for the time being. Back on the top step for the Norwegian. Milton Tomlinson Dennis had a great qualifying. Took pole position ahead of his field. And in the end wasn't able to stick with Anders. He obviously stuck behind him for quite some time. But I'm sure Tomlinson Dennis will be more than happy with the points he's bringing home in second place. Craig Twardock spent most of the race inside the top 5, but he only got himself onto the podium right toward the end. Great move around Corey Price going into Lecom. Good battle between them two. The podium on this occasion goes to the TSRC esports driver, who's followed up nicely by his teammate. The 123 Lamborghini of Kieran Sharp takes place in 4th. Nils Wever and Richard Simnor in 5th and 6th ahead of Lewis Kenyon. Corey Price battling for the lead, battling for the podium. In the end, he ran out of fuel, and 8th is what he will have to settle for. Daniel Pillman couldn't quite capitalise. He was a second behind him as they crossed the line, and Joris Peters-Wien inside the top 10. Ben Woodgate and Craig Corish finish ahead of James Mead. Ieuan Stichbury, who did well to get himself into a good position after a disappointing qualifying, ends up, I believe, where he started the race in 14th after that contact in Les Sources. Brandon Dyer, championship leader, likely no more with the return to form of Anders Myhre. Disappointing 15th for Brandon for Altitude 3M Esports. Harvey Wheeler, Andrew Pike, Jared Love, Dominic Delicate and Schubert Cardozo finish the top 20. And that is all she wrote in the elite class. And over in the pro class then, it's Danny Phillips who won out for DXT Motorsports Magenta. Did a very good job there to get past Jean toward the end of the race. And of course the issue for Chris Jennings sees him all the way down in 16th. Championship leaders struggling today going into the 3rd round then. So McLaren wins, Danny Phillips ahead of Jean Breitenbach and Adam Lynch getting himself onto the podium. It's an all British top 12 minus John. Clifton, Bardwell and Hammond, your top 6. Adam Baker for LS Racing 1 in that Corvette, that lone Corvette. One of few at least out there on the grid, occupied by Baker. Sam Hockley and Max Wheeler. Good end to the race for Hockley, gaining a place late on. Good defence as well for Chaps Motorsport. Max Wheeler and Hayden Ahmed will round out the top 10 ahead of Ollie Pimley, Bobby Moss, Mav Gardner, Benjamin Hunter and Jesus Saavedra inside the top 15. Chris Jennings, as we said, championship leader, struggling down there for the Access Sim Sports SimWorks team. Jan Janczek ahead, just behind, in P17, ahead of Mark Collicott, Ross Young and Paul Cowlishaw, sadly for him as well. And that is all we have as well in the pro class. Dara, are you still with us, mate, or have we lost you? We might. Oh, Dara has gone on mute, so he will be preoccupied for a moment, which is absolutely fine. Let's just drop me a message. Yeah, all good. So we will continue as things are without him then. Rightio then. So let's jump back to an earlier stage in the race. We can begin to bring in some of our interviewees who've joined us in the commentary booth to have a little word. So let's see who is in here joining us. We have quite a few drivers, more than usual, waiting to speak to us. But first and foremost, we can hand it back over to Dara to do his usual introduction. I think, Dara, it's only right to speak to our elite class winner, Anders Myhre, for the second time this season. See how he managed that one.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think after a display like that, it's only right that we bring in Anders first. Good evening, Anders. Welcome in. Can you hear us, first of all?
Good evening. Yeah, I hear you.
Good stuff, mate. Well, welcome back into the booth. It was a disappointing end to the race for you last week, but back on the top step for the second time this season. It was looking like you were managing the race pretty well at the start, not putting too much pressure on Tomlinson Dennis. In the end, coming out toward the final stretch there, he kind of opened the door for you. You didn't really have much of a chance to say no. You took the place and you led throughout. So talk us through the strategy, talk us through how you're feeling and how you were going into the start of the race.
Yeah, strategy-wise was kind of difficult after qualifying. I was impeded on every lap that I have in improvement, so that was really frustrating. But yeah, then the plan, you know, when you start P2, obviously you have to focus more on fuel saving and tire saving. I think I did that pretty well to a degree. I felt like Milton also was fuel saving quite a bit, so it wasn't easy saving more than him without being attacked from behind, but he made a mistake, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna go for it to just push him further and then fuel save even more. But I thought, you know, it's hard to feel how fast you are when you're behind someone on this track, because you can feel so much faster because of the big slipstream. So I thought, yeah, I'll just go for it and see if I can pull away. It's not easy on this track, but I managed to get a couple of good laps in. I noticed pretty quickly that those laps were too fast for the tires to last, so I had to calm it down a little bit. But yeah, I found a comfortable pace in the end that was good enough.
And I think it's interesting, isn't it? Over the course of the start of the season, you've had three very different races, haven't you? You had complete control in the opening round of the season. Then you had a little bit of difficulty last week. This week it was a little bit more of a fight. You know, how have you enjoyed the start to the season? Because it's, like I said, it's kind of been different all the way through.
Yeah, it's been mixed. I enjoyed Watkins a lot. I felt really well with the car. I felt like I had good control, but at both Bathurst and at this track, I haven't really felt that comfortable. I felt the car was really unstable, and I know it's not the car's fault because the car has been really good at both Bathurst and Spa, so it's a me problem. But I feel like I have oversteer in the fast corners and understeer in the slow corners, so I haven't really been best friends with the car for the last couple of races. Even though it was a win today, I wasn't too comfortable during practice. But yeah, I think it's down to that. How well I fare with the car on different tracks. So obviously at Bathurst I was very unlucky with the incident. But yeah, I think I'm not gonna have a race like Watkins again for the season. I think that was a one-hit wonder, but for sure I will try to do my best, and I'll try to figure out what the car wants from me to find even a bit more pace in it.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that about tuning the car. Next week we have Virginia up next for round 4. It's definitely a love-hate circuit, so I think around there, Anders, you're going to have to find a way to correct those issues that you're seeing this week. What do you think about that circuit? Is it something that you're looking forward to? I guess after the highs of Spa over the weekend and in this race, it's going to be a slightly different challenge to go there and race around that circuit.
Yeah, I love that track. It's one of my favorite tracks, so I'm looking forward to drive there. And as you say, it's a track that has a bit of both, so you have to really get ahead of the car. My issue is that I know nothing about setups other than changing tires and adjusting the wing up and down. So I just have to go through the setup shops and find something that works for me and work on that. But I also start my summer holiday after tomorrow, so not sure how much time I will have going into the races forward, but for sure I will try to get as much time in as possible. Luckily the next race will be a lot colder because it's a heat wave in Norway right now, so I don't know, I think it's like 50 degrees in this room right now, so next week will be it will be a track I like more, and it will be a more pleasant experience overall, so yeah, really looking forward to that.
Yeah, slightly cooler tonight in the UK compared to what it was this week, but last week, but now you've got the worst of it, so we all feel the same stuff. And I doubt you guys have AC similar to us as well. So it's always a little bit more challenging when that's the scenario. But yeah, good stuff, Anders. So yeah, you're looking forward to the race next week. That's very good. I think you're in a good place, and it's good that you arrived to a circuit that you love, because that will make for another entertaining one. So yeah, thanks to you for joining us. And before we let you go, if there's anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to, you can go ahead and do that now before we speak to our Pro Class winner.
Yeah, as always, I have to give a shout out to Rose in Sport. I know there's a bunch of guys watching tonight, so big shout out to them. They also helped me with setups before tonight. I had an issue with the setup right before qualifying, so shout out to the guys for helping me out right before that, and thanks to you guys for the broadcast and the organizers for a really good league. So yeah, thank you.
Very good stuff, Anders. Thank you so much. Good luck in your prep. Enjoy the holiday. And yeah, we'll see you around very shortly, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Good stuff, mate. Thank you.
Get a word in from Anders there, isn't it? After a dominant display, but it's not the only guys that are going to be very happy tonight after their evening's worth of racing. Mr. Danny Phillips joins us now after, I think, what he'd say is a great evening for him. Danny, welcome in. Can you hear us, first of all?
Thank you very much.
Welcome into the commentary booth then, Danny. Cracking night from you. You've converted it all. You took pole position in what was a very competitive qualifying order down there in the pro class, and you managed to withstand the pressure from quite a few drivers throughout that one. And in the end, a massive margin there, mate. 8.5 seconds over the trailing. Was it Brayton back in P2, I believe, in the end? Yes, it was. Talk us through that one. First of all, qualifying, and then you've managed the race, as I said, to a point where you have a massive margin over the rest of the field.
Yeah, good night really all round, to be fair. The pace was good. Qualifying right up until I think it was about 10 minutes ago, I finally pipped, I think it was Simon, who was qualified P2. I think I only got a tenth or so in him, but it was enough to put three or four elite drivers between me and him. And then, like I say, that was right at the end, so there was not much more happened then. Jumped in into the race session, and obviously it was with a couple of elites between us, and I was lined up next to Stitch as well. It was mostly about survival for the start, and unfortunately I got a half spin going into turn 1 on lap 2. Thankfully didn't take any damage, and then from there it was just get back into P1 and manage the pace sort of thing. But I was confident with the pace tonight. It's just there was a few micro stutters with the sim, and it was getting frustrating. That was the hardest thing to deal with all night. But no, the pace felt good and the car felt really good. It was just a good night for me really, but plenty of practice with the Spa-24 that's given me plenty of time to put some laps in.
Yeah, sorry to cut you up here, Dara. I'm just going to ask Danny one quick question because he's made me remember something there. You had your issue coming out of La Source, as you said, on the second lap, but then you pulled off an absolute almighty move at the top of Radion. That must have been maybe a code brown as you were slowly running out of space, and you just managed to sneak the rear end through before everyone sort of converged into the same part of the track.
Yeah, it wasn't intentional. I thought at first, that Ross, Jared was giving me the position back after he spammed me or half spammed me round, and then it turns out I've just been speaking to him in the interview waiting room. His front bumper came off in the melee with me. I got away luckily with no damage, and I think his bumper was dragging under his car, so he was really slow coming out of Radion, which he didn't even realise at first until he was absolutely swarmed with cars. Like I say, the space was just rapidly disappearing, and I just had to commit to the outside line. And unfortunately, I did actually make contact with Jared, but I got away with it again and dipped a wheel on the grass, and luckily got away with it.
I mean, in the end, though, it's worked out for you over the course of the race, and even with those issues, you still were able to pull through. I mean, what kind of confidence does that give you going into the rest of the season, knowing that you can still deal with those issues and still come out with some good points?
Yeah, the results definitely give you a bit of confidence. There's a couple of tracks this season that I'm not going to be too confident at turning up to. There's a couple that I'm looking forward to. So Le Mans really suits the McLaren, especially since the latest pre-season bop. VIR should be good fun. I'm not keen on Hockenheim in the slightest. That one can go straight in the bin. And I think probably Daytona will probably suit the bop as well this year as well. So looking forward to some races coming up, but there'll definitely be some challenges.
Good stuff, mate. As always, I'm sure you have some people that you'd like to give a shout out to before we move on. So if you'd like to do that, you can do that now.
Yeah, as always, thank you very much for the stream from you guys. Always fun to watch back the next day. And a massive shout out to the DXT lads. Good couple of results in the B split for us as well tonight. I think both Barry and James got a podium in there, so good result all around for DXT. And the boys are always supportive in the chat, so thank you very much to them.
Yeah, it's good as well, aren't you? Right in the mixer in the team's championship, coming into this one in third place. So I'm sure after a good couple of results, that will see you there. If not, an improved result. So good stuff, Danny. Thanks for joining us again. Congratulations. Good luck with the preparation for next week, and we'll see you where you end up.
Thank you very much, Bo.
All right, mate. Enjoy the weekend. See you later.
Thanks, Danny. Danny Phillips there. Good to get a word from him after a very, very successful evening indeed. We'll also have a quick little chat to Mr. Adam Lynch. So Adam, welcome in. Can you hear us, first of all?
Yeah.
Hello, Adam. Welcome into the booth. Good to have you in. Really, it's near perfect from you, right? Qualifying 11th, up onto the podium. Some drama toward the end there to get you into that position, but ultimately you were there to take it. So talk us through that one from outside the top 10 right onto the podium. Must be a good feeling.
Yeah, I didn't have the greatest qualifying, I'll say that. The car felt pretty understeery. And all about then, it was kind of just managed turn one, and luckily I went outside, which seemed to be where all the chaos wasn't, and managed to get past a lot of it. I think it was Lawrence de Dapper who did clip my rear. I got 4x from that, and unlucky. I think it was unlucky for him because his front bumper came off, and it was the slightest bit of contact. But then, like from that, I was P5, and then I think it was coming out with poo on. Someone I don't know who it was. Someone spun in front of me, and that was P4, and then managed to get the overtake on Simon a few laps later. And that's kind of where I finished after that. Then.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been up and down even then, isn't it, for you? In the end, at least you can make those moves towards the end of the race. I mean, looking forward, where do you see the positives in this? What were the elements in tonight's race that you can use to move forward and maybe go even further than what you got tonight?
Just try and not bin it, to be honest, because I think I was P1 in Bathurst, in the first lap, and going down the hill, car just came away from me, and that was the end of my race. And then I don't think I was here in the first race, so obviously this is the first race that I've done this season. So it was all just kind of still finding my pace and where everyone is in terms of pace to me, and then just management from there. So I think the season is mostly always going to be about management of the race. It's not going to be pure pace, that's for sure. I'm going to need those extra laps from the fuel saving some tracks, but that's definite. But yeah, it's definitely a positive, and I won't be out of VAR next week, so we're looking forward to whatever's after that. I can't remember. Might be Hockenheim, is it? I think.
We have just gone over that, but I don't remember myself actually. It is Road America and then Hockenheim.
Ah, yeah.
So you've got
Wet Road
one
America
90
as well, I
minutes,
believe.
one more 90-minute race before you get yourself to Germany.
Yeah, that I love Road America, so that's going to be a great one. Things in the wet as well, which even better. So
Nice, and so Adam, that will launch the team's championship into life for you, of course, coming into this one tonight yourself and Philip, who sadly haven't scored any points up to this point. Obviously, you said it's your first race of the season, but that's kick-started you in the teams as well, so it might sort of catapult you into the mix-up a little bit. Is that something that you've got your eye on at all into the teams, or are you focusing more on yourself and your own driving?
I think at the start of the season, I think it was the teams in Bathurst as well, like going into it, we could just try and get as many points for the team as possible. But I think now it's so far adrift. I think Phil's had to take a car change because he was using the McLaren, not McLaren, the Lambo, and he just could not get to grips with it, so he switched to Ferrari. But I mean, it's nice to get the points for the team. That's for sure. Get on the board, but it's definitely not the be all and end all of the season. I think now it's all just try and do what I can do race to race.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, good stuff, Adam. Well, thanks for joining us. Congratulations. Maybe more podiums for you to come over the next couple of weeks. Time will tell. But before we let you go, we always like to give the guys a chance to give a shout out to anyone or a little special mention. If you've got anyone in mind, you can go ahead and do that now. And if not, then we'll wrap things up.
Yeah, just the Euro Titans guys again. Always super helpful with the setups and things like that. And then to the guys I was fighting tonight, mostly Ieuan. He did a great job to keep me behind. I just didn't have the pace in the corners, and by the end of the straights, I just couldn't get close enough. Even though my straight line speed was definitely better, because the Ferrari straight line speed is not ideal. So yeah, thanks to Ieuan for the battle tonight. It was great.
Good stuff, mate. Good stuff. Well, thanks for joining us. Good luck, and I'm sure we'll speak to you again in the future.
All right, thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Get a word in from Adam Lynch. They're going to get a word from a few drivers, wasn't it, Joe?
Yeah, it is. Good race winners as well. Good to speak to the podium sitters. It's nice, especially when you have some new guys in the booth, just to get a bit more personality about, we know some of these guys from being around for a while, but first time that we've had the pleasure to speak to Mr. Lynch there. So nice of him to join us then. So in summary there, Dara, pretty good race again. We've been treated to a fortnight at least of very competitive racing, and we're beginning to see some battles forming. I'm not going to jump the gun and expect Tomlinson Dennis to be at the sharp end every week. We'll soon see. He's had 2 qualifyings, give or take, around the top 10. Tonight was a good one. Let's see how he goes tomorrow. But I think that Twardok and Twardok and Price are going to mix it together. Sharp and Wever are starting to stick around each other a little bit more. And then, of course, if Jennings, the likes of Jennings, Phillips and Breitenbach, and, of course, Adam, can keep themselves in good pace with one another, it could be some good battles that we have in store for us over the next few rounds worth of racing. But yeah, I think a classic circuit like Spa has thrown up potentially a classic SRI race there, Dara, with drama right throughout.
Yep, it was a great one all the way through, and I think it really was an exciting race from start to finish. It kind of kept us on our toes, didn't it, right the way through. And I think a lot of the drivers were kind of keeping an eye on drivers around them to make sure that they weren't over or underestimating anything. But I think it set us up nicely going in towards next week at Road America, another very different circuit again, and hopefully we get more of the same exciting racing.
Absolutely right then. So if you'd like to join us on the grid here at SRI, plenty of opportunities then. The next championship to get underway is our transatlantic McLaren GT3 GT4 multiclass every other Wednesday night, but you can find us, me and Dara and Paul Walsh, down there on B-Split Thursdays 7:30 start. Friday evenings and Sunday evenings we have the Friday GTE Championship. That's now already into its 3rd season, and the UKSR Sunday Showdown well underway as well. If our grids fill up, you can always join us in the Practice League too. Just go ahead and search discord.gg/SimRacing International. It'll take you right to the server, and you can get involved with the racing here at SimRacing International. So thank you to everyone who stuck around to the end. As always, a very exciting round that sets us up nicely as we head toward the halfway point of the season. Round 4 this time next week, Virginia for 1 hour, and then a 90-minute session again around Road America. So a busy couple of weeks as we head to the States for what will be the second and third time this season, and it seems like we have a lot of drivers who are ready for that one. So thanks everyone, enjoy the weekend, and we'll catch you all next week.